All right, finally, we're getting started. And I already have somebody that's ready to come on. So I guess let's get right into it. What's up, everybody? Hello. Okay, let's do this. Alrighty. Well, they said it may be a bit, so I guess for now, let me make sure that I've put it. I did not. Okay. Let me put a link to my Discord into the description. Okay, so it is the third paragraph in the description if you look down below. Okay, so today we're going to do the live call-in show that you guys, my awesome fans, paid for with your generous donations. Generous. We're going to go at it in 30-minute intervals. I meant to write 20-minute intervals, but that's okay. We'll correct that real quick. 20-minute intervals until we all get too tired to stand, and then it'll be back at it again tomorrow for another. That one will be a little bit earlier in the day. To queue up for a live call-in, join the Discord server linked below and join Stream Guest Vet. Then wait for me to unmute to vet you. If I trust the process, you'll be invited to the StreamYard studio, which is accessed through your browser, and you'll get at least 20 minutes to make your case about a specific topic. So, with all that being said, welcome, everyone. Hi, you look amazing. What a sweet comment. Thank you. Are you trans? I am indeed. I wish it would let me show comments on stage mount. No, it won't let me. You have to be a premium StreamYard subscriber to get that. But yeah, if you want to do that, go ahead and join Stream Guest Vet on my Discord. Get out of here, notification. I hate you. Okay. I'm looking to join the military. Any advice? My family has served since World War II. I thought you would get your advice on it. I mean, right now might not be the best time to serve unless you're like actively okay with going into combat, but it is a good way to get a step up in life. Veterans are not treated particularly well in America, but they are treated better than some places. And our success as a global superpower allows us to offer our veterans a lot of benefits for joining that can enable you to get like farther in life than you might have gotten if you didn't join up. So it can be a worthwhile thing. Let's see, do we have anyone? Come on, guys, join that Discord and get into Stream Guest Vet, and we will have some call-ins. I guess in the meantime, we could always we could figure out something to do. Play a trivia game or something. Let's see here. I'm gonna put this in the comments, and that should help. An increasingly embarrassing admission. Alrighty, let's see. Do we have anything yet? No, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Let's see. Ooh, we got a message back from person. Oh, all right. Okay, so I'm gonna give me 1 second. I will still be talking to you guys, but I'm going to vet somebody real quick. Hello? Hello, hello? Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I gotcha. I'm sorry. No, I mean, I understand those conversations can be pretty hard conversations like that. I hear your mic. Okay. Huh? Well, I mean, you're not a kid, so it's like, I don't think it should be anybody's business, but, okay, so what name do you, go by, for when I'm in the conversation? Mary, I assume? Okay. We can do that. That's fine. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and send you the StreamYard link. And we will... come on now. You're supposed to bring the topic to the table. Yeah. Yeah. Alrighty. See you in a minute. Okay, so they should be in here in just a second, and we'll see what they have to say. It's going to be 20-minute intervals, so right now it's about to be 1:30. Hopefully, they will come in right at the 1:30 mark, and that will be nice. And then we can get a nice 30 minutes out of her, and then on to the next person. How do you want your pronouns to be addressed? I use she, her pronouns. I think Mary does as well. I don't like Donald only because he's trying to get the Mexicans out of America, and a lot of them are my friends. That's a good reason not to like somebody. Oh, okay. You're wasting games.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, forgot my profile pic was Yaldabaoth. Alright. Howdy.
Okay. No, yeah. What's up? Yeah, you've always got wonderful things to say in chat. Yeah. You're always cheering me on when I'm like shouting down the maggots in chat. So
yep.
What's up?
I'm good. Just had, complicated conversation I told you about, but like what I'm trying to think of some things we could debate about. So what are some ideas that you think we may disagree on?
How do you feel about guns?
Guns are good.
How do you feel about How do you feel about homeschooling?
Depends on the situation. It can be good. How about we talk about religion? You cool with that?
Religion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm game.
So I always see that pentagram in the background, so I just assumed you're Wiccan. But are you a Satanist?
No, I don't. I don't identify as a Satanist or even as a Wiccan or a pagan. I just like the fact that the pentagram is a symbol that freaks a lot of people out, and if somebody is like a super hardcore fundy Christian, they are less likely to interact with me if they see that symbol. Now, a lot of like regular, normal, everyday religious people are not so offended by symbols that they won't talk to somebody who's got a pentagram on their wall. But the type of people who are the type of people that I find so creepy and untenable in conversation.
Can I ask, what are you, pagan or atheist, or what are you?
I think I'm just a crazy hippie, to be honest with you. In theory, I'm an atheist in the sense that I think that there's positive proof that the God of the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, is unequivocally false. An unequivocally false God. The God of the Bible has specific qualities that cannot be demonstrated to exist within our temporal reality. So I'm an atheist in that sense, but I don't know that I reject all belief in the supernatural. I think that there's lots of things that humanity hasn't quite managed to explain yet that are very interesting and coincidental and perhaps point towards some greater meaning or framework. But I don't personally subscribe to a specific religious framework or spiritual doctrine.
Well, I'd say that I'm a Christian, but from a very different perspective. Do you know what Gnosticism is?
Vaguely, very vaguely. Everything I hear about it makes me more curious.
So essentially, the God of the Bible, Yahweh, Allah, Jehovah, is the demiurge, Yaldabaoth, the creator of the material realm who rebelled against his mother in order to trap divine sparks, the human soul, in mortal bodies, and, essentially just keep us slaves.
Okay.
So, the creator of the material realm is evil, and that's why the God of the Old Testament is evil.
Oh, okay. So wait. So how does Christ factor into you guys' legendarium?
So Christ is an eon that is above the the demiurge, and
What is that?
essentially came
I'm fascinated. Don't
divine
get me wrong.
divine spiritual beings that are like. So there's essentially the monad where all light and radiance flows from, and you have different beings like Abraxas. These are basically beings above the God of the Old Testament that are sentient. Christ is one of those that came to Earth in order to teach humans how to essentially flee the material realm and how to actually essentially how to achieve gnosis. And by doing that, we have to actually, do what the Bible says and be good people, put in the effort, be charitable, follow the fruits of the Spirit, essentially, be charitable, kind, and also try to, teach people all this shit is bad and fake and we got to flee the material realm.
That is why I think Gnosticism kind of like bakes my brain a little bit. Because when I hear it explained, I feel like I'm hearing somebody like say, the God of the Bible is evil, which I agree with, but then they're saying, like, the Bible is a good moral framework, which it's like supposed to be the word of God, right? And so it just seems like there's some contradictions inherent. Like, how can the Bible be simultaneously a good source of ethical doctrine, but also a completely unreliable, everything else, basically, that it's supposed to be, right?
Because a lot of the words of Christ were, while the Bible is flawed, evil, and has been mistranslated so many times that you can't get the full picture, the words of Christ are newer and have been more documented. So we can trust those, except it cuts out a lot of stuff that he said. But the things that are in there and that we do know that he did say, he tells us, don't be a jackass.
I mean, certainly, accounts of Christ are more contemporary than the accounts presented in the Old Testament. I mean, some of those are thousands of years old. Like, obviously, the story of Christ is too, but it's like just a couple thousand years old. Whereas some of these other stories, I mean, like the sources we have are thousands of years old. But who knows how long the oral traditions went on, and who knows how many other copies have been lost to the waves and the sands and everything else. So certainly the words of the Bible have been edited a tremendous amount of times, but that actually is another reason why I don't think it's a very reliable ethical framework, or at least a very reliable basis for an ethical framework. Personally.
And very true. And well, we do have some copies, Gnostic copies of the Bible, that essentially, tell us like the reverse of every Bible verse, just think of it from like the opposite perspective or something along those lines, But essentially, the demiurge pits the three. Of course, you have way more religions than these, but pits the three main Abrahamic religions against each other: Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Pits them against each other, tries to get us to kill each other instead of actually understanding the truth that we're trapped.
See, I also think that this is an interesting concept of Gnosticism because, like, if you actually read the doctrines, like the core doctrines of these religions, sorry, excuse me. If you read the core doctrines of these religions, obviously, the Torah cannot, like, predict the coming of Christianity necessarily, nor the coming of Islam. But the Quran recognizes both Christians and Jews as being recipients of the same holy teachings and being followers in the same line of, like, they consider the Abrahamic faiths like united. Christianity considers itself an offshoot of the Jews. Really, like, Judaism kind of has a problem with Christianity in terms of that they don't believe Jesus was the Messiah. They believe he was merely a prophet. Same, viewpoint that the Muslims have in regards to Christ. But it doesn't seem like these religions have to be diametrically opposed to one another. It seems like a lot of the reasons why they've remained so opposed to one another is, like, largely been the consequence of imperialism and
Very
desires
true.
to control these places from afar, in my opinion.
Very true. But also the scripture, the inconsistencies of scripture makes, people fight and stuff like that.
Yeah, true.
But I mean,
Very true.
like, you'll have Christians believe, like, Prophet Muhammad, they'll say he wasn't a prophet or something like that, but I believe he did talk to God.
Really?
Yeah. I don't believe that, the demiurge was, I don't believe the demiurge is good, but I believe, he interacted with Muhammad and prophets missed him.
That almost makes him scary, honestly. If the precepts of Gnosticism are true, it actually makes it kind of terrifying to think if anyone actually does talk to God, what is that evil motherfucker telling them this time?
Yep.
Who knows? Who knows? Who knows?
Now,
Maybe George W. Bush really did talk to fucking God.
It makes sense. Same thing with all these crazy cult leaders, like, what's
Jim
her
Jones.
name? Jim Jones. I mean, hell, when I was 12, I prank called the Westboro Baptist Church and got Shirley Phelps to scream at me.
Oh, that is so cool. That is dope, actually. That's street cred. I like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But these three faiths, they're pitted against each other, and, like, there's so much beyond this terrible material world. I mean, like, you can point to Christians and ask them, like, if God is all good or all knowing, why do things like, these genocides, these wars, all this happen? And they'll say, oh, well, they usually can't give you a reason, or just say it's part of the divine plan or something like that. But this gives evidence for why this happens, because, I mean, like when Cain killed Abel, Cain was given a special mark to protect him, because, it was, while Christians say this mark that, protects him was a curse, in our belief, it's a reward.
Interesting. I feel like it's weird, right? Most of my objections to Gnosticism don't necessarily come from like any objection to the morality proposed by it, because for the most part, it seems like you guys lean into the teachings of Christ, which I overall find pretty admirable, right? I think that it's good for anyone who I think that, like, honestly, a lot of the principles of Christ can be pretty universally applied, even if you're, like me, functionally an atheist when it comes to the Abrahamic religions at the very least. That I can get behind. I feel like most of my problems with you guys come down to, like, just like the basic kind of like doctrinal contradictions and things like that I see in mainstream Christians. But I like talking to you guys a little more because you guys aren't trying to destroy the planet.
Yep, we're trying to flee from it.
I guess. Either way, you're not a doomsday cult as far as I can tell, so you're fine by me.
The doomsday cult is literally what we're fighting against.
Joey Fangus said, jumped into stream at a weird time, lol, just a Catholic, just vibing. Well, Joey, I like you too, because Catholics also don't believe in the death cult shit. Catholics think that the end of the world shall come like a thief in the night, which is coincidentally what the Bible says about the end of the world.
Mm-hmm. So also, this is obviously not like a scriptural thing or doctrine or anything like that, but I'm also going to say that, essentially gender dysphoria is obviously both of us suffer with it.
This is going to be a hot take. You're about to do a real hot take.
From a spiritual perspective, I believe that us being divine sparks trapped in mortal bodies, as well as me believing in Pistis Sophia, divine feminine, that there's feminine spirits, there's masculine spirits, and then what I'm going to call, I forget how my other friend put it, something along the lines of androgynous spirits, which that is essentially a whole long list of things. It's not like three main types, you have like a whole long list. So this is why, you have people who suffer gender dysphoria, and why we have people like me, you have non-binary people, you have, just, this goes along with it, why gender dysphoria is a thing specifically. Wrong spirit to wrong body because we're trapped in the material realm.
Right spirit, wrong body, right?
Yeah, right spirit, wrong body. Sorry. Sometimes
No,
it makes my words up.
You're fine. I mean, like, there's like 92 people watching us talk about this crazy gender dysphoria, spirituality shit. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking if you're not used to it,
It's kind of hard for me to put my words together sometimes. It got autism. So.
Yeah, that's okay. Honestly, and we can maybe finish up with like a brief little discussion about this. We don't have to, but it's we got 5 minutes left. I'm doing 20-minute time slots, so well, we got about 5 more minutes left on the call. One thing that really helps if you feel like you get nervous in conversations, or if you have a hard time putting your words together, is just like honestly just practicing it more. Even if you're just talking to yourself, you might feel like a schizophrenic for the first couple weeks, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. I have gotten tremendously better at organizing my words and presenting myself in a confident and straightforward manner while I'm speaking since starting the stream, because I just have to talk so much just to fill the air and have these conversations and stuff like that. And you can replicate that by talking to yourself, or even these days, I mean, I know everybody hates AI, but these days, if you've got a smartphone, and especially if you've got an Android, just open up Gemini and do the little voice thing. You can literally have a back and forth conversation with an AI, and one of the few things it is good at is helping people who are already capable of critically thinking get better at certain activities. So it's worth looking into.
Yeah, but what were you going to say about dysphoria?
I think I was just going to say I honestly prefer the health related explanations for it. Like over here, and I'm not trying to dismiss any spiritual explanation that we might come up with for it, but personally, I feel like with anti-trans advocacy being so commonplace these days, I feel like it's personally important for me to put this forward face of there are medical reasons why transgender people are real and valid, regardless of what other spiritual backing there may be. That doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about these things. I really appreciate you bringing it up as a topic. But when it comes to me personally, I don't ascribe to any of the spiritual ideas about it necessarily, because I think one, I prefer theorizing about it to adopting one specific narrative, and two, I think that there are really good, easily searchable, literally I just searched Mayo Clinic transgender and was able to bring up this write-up from the Mayo Clinic. There's such easy to explain medical explanations that is what I choose to lead with, but that doesn't mean it's invalid to talk about the spiritual side of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. All right.
Do you have any last any last lightning round questions you want to ask? Anything you've always wondered?
I guess more of how I can get more into YouTube, because I'm obviously I got 1,000 subs now, but I'm still trying to practice at it and get into political debates and stuff like that.
Honestly, the way I've grown my channel has been exclusively doing those vertical lives. And if you can get used to doing live streamed content, it is a tremendous way to build viewer engagement and retention and everything else. So I would recommend just doing more live content and clipping out good moments of that, which I need to do more of myself. Because when I do it, it tends to do pretty okay, but I just don't do it that often. And I, really have no excuse for it.
All right. Well, I'm fixing to go, but maybe we should talk more at this point. Hope you have a great night.
Sure. Yeah, we definitely could. I hope you do as well. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Alrighty. Well, that was Mary, and she's a cool person from the community, also known as Wasteland Games. Check out their YouTube channel. So I'm going to hop into Stream Guest Vet, and if anybody wants to come in next, go ahead and head to my Discord. I'll go ahead and link that again. No, that's not what I meant. Fuck. Oops. No, I'm a retard. I'm stupid as shit. I can't believe I just posted my StreamYard link in the fucking chat. I meant to post the Discord link, but I'm an idiot, so that's what I get. Okay, so here's the Discord link. I'm gonna pop this into chat. So yeah, join my Discord server. It's also linked down in the description below if you want to come on the live stream and debate me on something. We're doing 20-minute segments on any topic you want. Matt, can you turn your volume up? Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and shoot you the link. But 20 minutes. Oh, okay. Well, 20 minutes will be good for that. That'll be a good segment. I'll go ahead and shoot you the link. God damn it. I'm so retarded. I keep sending the wrong links to every fucking thing. Fuck. I'm bad at this. I'm so bad at streaming. No, dude. I work alone. Maybe. Alright, I sent you the StreamYard link. Alrighty. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself over here. And deafen. Okay. Add to stage. Matt, welcome to the stream.
It is I. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're a little quiet. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you one more time.
Test.
Alrighty, I think that'll be good. I turned your volume up a little bit for you.
Yeah, I got it all the way on my mouth, so I mean, you should be.
Yeah, no. Well, in that case, back up off it a little bit, and let me turn you up a little more.
How about there?
One more test.
Test.
Oh, that's good. That's clear. That's nice.
Alrighty then. So, I've mostly just been complaining about, how do we deal with the older generation and fighting them on politics, or better yet, not fighting them and just trying to keep the peace. Really, it seems because both sides are indignant with changing their opinions. We got our reasons, right? We think we're right, they think they're right, and both sides are not willing to cooperate.
Yeah. So I think that there's a number of tactics that you can employ to try and get through to people that are incredibly set in their ways. And when it comes to a leftist trying to convince conservatives of our, leftist progressive opinions, I think one of the best tactics that I've found is the I'm just asking questions approach. And honestly, if you approach it with more nonchalance than the I'm just asking questions bro people did, you can use it to devastating effect from the left. And what I mean by that is someone says something horrible, like, I hope they round up all them illegals and deport them all. You can say, oh my God, what a horrible thing to say, or man, that's really cruel, or something like that. Or you can say, I don't know, what's so bad about all the Mexicans?
Phoebe, I wish it was that tame. I've heard way. I've heard way more.
I know, but I can't. You know, like I'm a streamer. I make my living doing fucking live streams. I can't. Trust me. I grew up in Mississippi. I know how. I know. Trust me. I'm aware. But I'm just saying, like, there's a way that I feel like we can try and. I feel like the problem we run into is that these people have been prepped through decades of propaganda to be ready for leftists that are going to attack on the hard edge and bite back at all their opinions. And you have to subvert that expectation, at least in my opinion.
I wish it worked that way with my parents. Because they always fall back on life experience. They're older, they know better, and not only that, they firmly believe that Trump is a good person. He's a good Christian. He would never do anything like that. Never bad. Dems are evil. The news is fake news. You shouldn't be watching this. You shouldn't be don't read what you're hearing, or don't listen to what you're hearing on the internet. Who are you talking to? That's filling your head with this nonsense.
Right.
I mean, it's so stuck, and you can get away with, like, just asking questions, talking back and forth. But as soon as you oppose a strong view, it turns into a fight automatically.
Right. This is one of those things where I feel like it's really either you, I don't know, man. I feel like in your situation, it might be too far gone. I really don't know if there's any other option but just not bringing up politics, or just like, deflecting, or even just appeasement. Literally, appeasement can work so well on stupid boomers. And I'm not trying to call your parents stupid boomers.
I mean,
but, I'm just like, listen, if you're dealing with somebody who's like 65 or older and cannot be made to see reason in this new era of political shit, just say whatever they want to hear. I know this sounds like I'm being mean, but they're probably not going to be bright enough to catch it anymore. Well, if they're so gone that they believe every single thing that Fox News puts in front of them, and they automatically disbelieve anything that challenges their narrative, they are not here enough to notice that you're just appeasing.
Right. Well, it's one thing to keep my opinion to myself. I can accept that. It's another thing to go along with their worldview. That I just will not. I will not, accept a falsehood where I say something.
No, I wouldn't want you to.
Yeah. I'd rather keep my opinions to myself and then just never discuss it than to just agree with it and say, oh yeah, those N words, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that. I don't know, man. I feel like if you're able to try any approach, it's probably not gonna. I don't know, like how amenable. Like, okay, when you say it, like they become fights. Like, are they physical fights or are they yelling fights?
No, it's usually two versus one.
So, but here, I guess what I'm getting at is like,
it's all emotional. It's nothing's physical.
Right. Okay. So I get that, but how do you respond in those moments? Like, do you I'm assuming you call them on their bullshit, right?
So here's exactly how something happened. So we're in the car together, and they've been playing the same music over and over. One of them is that "Rich from Richmond" song. I hate that song.
Oh my God.
And the other is Tom McDonald.
Oh no.
Ugh. And so it's not so much that they're listening to it, is that it's on repeat. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's constant.
It's like, and find another fucking song.
Yeah. And I mentioned, man, I really don't like Tom McDonald. And then that turns into, well, like I told you before, it turns, where are you getting this information? Like, Tom McDonald's a good singer. Well, why don't you like him? It's like, no, he's a grifter. he's playing you. And then that just turns into a shouting match, even though That goes into politics, which I guess
Well,
you can.
yeah.
And then I try
So
to de-escalate, and it doesn't work. De-escalation
Right.
doesn't.
So the vibe I'm getting, honestly, Matt, is that your parents are just kind of confrontational. I think your parents like fighting. I don't think that you should be looking for a solution to this because there is no solution to this.
You
And I
you
hate to be the bearer of bad news about that, but I
you,
think that
you,
they just like fighting with you.
you hit the nail on the head. They're constantly fighting with each other.
Yeah, they like, yeah, then there we go. We figured it out. Matt, you are searching for a problem. You are searching for a solution to the wrong problem. What your parents need is not a particular approach out of you. It's therapy.
I mean, I would 100%, but good luck. Good luck with that.
I know, but I'm just saying that's why you are at this impasse when it comes to political conversations with them. And honestly, I am lucky enough to have parents that are not like that politically, but I have had family members that are like that politically, and I don't talk to them anymore. And I don't know if I'll ever talk to them again. Fuck them. I mean, I'm not saying you should be like, fuck them to your parents, but if somebody is completely unamenable to reason to the point where it just causes constant fights with you because they're trying to goad you into them by playing bad music on repeat to fucking annoy you, which is what it sounds to me like they were probably doing. There's no point in looking for a better. There's no point.
I don't think
you
they're
will
doing
not
it.
find it.
I don't think they're doing it on purpose. I mean, you know, like what you said, like they're trying to go. I don't think they're trying to do that at all. I think they just like it, and they can't understand why I don't, and they're forcing my opinion, which I don't want to give because it's.
I like a lot of songs. I never listen to a song on repeat more than once.
Some people are like that, though. Some people are like that.
Well, yeah, I guess.
You know, they're always listening to the same album over and over and over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. I get it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just a paranoid bitch. Maybe this is why I don't have any friends.
Well, you know, so like I think it's wrong, but I do believe it comes from a place of love with my parents because they love me to death. I do believe that, but
well,
you know,
that's the thing.
They think like America will fall. You know, America will be taken over by outside forces if we don't do this, and then your future will be ruined. That's what they believe firmly.
Right, and I get that. Yeah, I mean, it really is hard to like fight against that in any logical and rational way, and you really can't. It sounds to me like they just really like fighting, and like that. Like I'm telling you, even if you did find an approach that worked politically, or even if you wore them down to the point where they didn't care politically, you would be fighting over the way that people keep their lawns or the way that your steak is done or something. People that want to fight, and it sucks because it's even among people that they love. If you're not working on that, if you don't work to correct that behavior in yourself or channel it into something positive or something, then you will find any excuse you need to and any topic in the world to fight over. What they need is therapy, not political advocacy.
I agree. So how did you deal with your parents? I'm sure. Well, I don't know. Let me ask you: were they Republican at one point, and are they still?
My dad has pretty much always been like a libertarian conservative kind of guy, you know.
In the South? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, not really. There's honestly quite a bit of like libertarian conservatism down here. Honestly,
yeah,
it's a shocking amount of it.
In California, you wouldn't believe that we're probably going to we might go red, which is crazy for me to say that.
No, I mean, it might be crazy. I mean, it might feel crazy, you being a Californian, but like, I don't know. California to me seems like a state split in two. The Inland Empire is basically Texas, and the coastal areas of California are basically Massachusetts. So it's a very strange state.
Yeah, I don't know where all these right wingers came from in California, though. It's just they just like my parents. I swear they didn't always used to be that way. And when they got older, it just flipped somehow. I don't know.
The lead that they ingested from the paint chips they took off the wall as a kid started catching up to them.
I'm thinking so. I'm thinking so.
I mean, it might be. It for real might be. There really has been a noted, here's the thing. You think about the people. There's so many people with your story, Matt, that have parents who were once way more liberal politically, or at least way more reasonable politically, who are now just diehard MAGA QAnon types. And a lot of them are people who used to be smarter in a lot of ways, not just politically. And it's like, you think about them now, how did they possibly get to that point? What happened? I think that environmental causes have to be considered. They have to at least be part of the conversation, right?
I mean, I think also, like I said, I do think the Democratic Party has failed big time with all. Like, if we were giving people what they wanted, if we were doing, I mean, not me, but if Democrats were really
Dems,
have
right.
the people at the heart of this matter, and wanted to do the best for them, I don't think we'd be in this situation. They're all, shaking hands behind the cameras, making deals with corporations, taking money. And
the Dems and the Republicans take money from all the same people. They are funded by all the same PACs. They
Correct.
are united when it comes to this Iran conflict. There's been no meaningful disagreement. I mean, it's just like the Dems are bought and paid for. The Republicans are bought and paid for, but they're also openly fascistic. And I mean, that's honestly, Matt, that's why I keep predicting this fall of the Democratic Party, where the moderate Democrats have to go over to the Republicans and they start this new moderate faction of the Repubs, along with the independent and conservative leaning, or the libertarian leaning conservatives over there. They start this new coalition on the right, and then the progressives that are left in the Democratic Party either let the party just die and form a new thing. They go with the Party of Socialism and Labor, or the American Workers' Party, or some shit like that, or they turn the Democratic Party into an actually progressive party that departs from its history in a big way and starts actively opposing capitalism as a project.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is no other choice, because the American people there's total cynicism among the American people in the political process, and there's also a great desire for change amongst those people.
Paul being one of them. If we had to point to somebody, Paul would be a perfect example of somebody who feels he can't do anything about it, but incredibly wants to change really bad.
Exactly. Paul's a great example of that kind of archetype. Paul Zigo, if anybody's wondering who we're talking about. Yeah, somebody who is disaffected because they see there's total cynicism in his heart about the political process and the ability of the American voter to meaningfully change anything with their vote. But there is tremendous desire for change in Paul's heart. I genuinely believe that he would love to see some progressive politician that is that has a really good record of achieving what they fight for, and that is running on a platform of outright no excuses universal health care and outright no excuses food stipend and shit like that. Man, there are people like that out there. There are dozens of them, millions of them probably. We could reach those people. I think with time we might reach those people, but we have to start trying, and that means the Democratic Party is going to have to be turned into something fundamentally different, or be allowed to die and in its place replaced by something that actually works for the interests of the American worker.
I also think Americans for so long have been lied to, that America is this great shining example on the hill, and it's a place that was built on mass genocide and then slavery and then racism on top of it for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And
now we're on slavery.
Yeah, and now we're trying to push everything progressively into the future, and then half of the country wants to go back to the good old days, when there never was the good old days. It never existed. And that where lies the lie, the great lie. These good old days, they're only good for one group of people, and everybody else.
Yeah. Before you go, Matt, you want to watch something with me?
Of course.
We talk a lot about slavery and how America was founded and built on slavery, but a lot of times people never get to see an outright view of what modern day slavery looks like. Let me give you a little.
I've been through a lot of experiences in prison, and then no lie is one of the scariest experiences of my life. I mean, something out of a movie. Something literally out of a movie. Just waking up, hearing grown men screaming. You ever hear a grown man cry? Not only cry, but scream, pain, they scared.
This is Parchman Prison, which is an American prison farm located in Parchman, Mississippi. Anybody ever heard of it?
Right. This is just legal slavery. That's all this is.
And it's actually worse than slavery because in slavery, the slaves had a sense of solidarity in that they were all slaves and all had basically the same rights and dignities, and there was like an incentive to work together for the betterment of the common community insofar as slaves were allowed to have one.
And here, everybody just hates each other.
Literally.
Reports of another deadly riot at the Mississippi State Penitentiary in Parchman tonight.
5 inmates dead, several more injuries in incidents that have happened behind bars this week.
Just blood on the walls, horrible fucking deaths, stabbings, abuses of power, abuses of fucking sexual abuses. I wonder if they have any views of them in the work camps.
Horrible conditions.
Yeah, literally. Let's see here.
Like it looks like a war zone inside these prisons.
Oh yeah, no, dude. And Parchman is like one of the particularly bad examples. But yeah, I mean, it literally does. Let's see. Does this talk about it?
But the minute the Civil War was over and African Americans were free, Parchman was built where plantations existed in the Delta. Once you were arrested, you automatically sent to Parchman and put to work. I just think it became a mechanism to continue slavery.
100% correct.
Parchman, another form of economic.
Yep, that is 100% correct. Work continues on the Parchman prison farm to this day. Inmates continue to be treated to some of the worst conditions available in any prison on earth, not just American prisons. Mississippi is the most depraved state in the union when it comes to the capacity of its state prisons to fuck you up.
It's genius in its depravity. You know, you make the environment of people so bad that they have to steal and do crime just to get by, and then you lock them up, sometimes for life, and then force them without pay to be a workforce, like they're animals.
Literally, yeah. It is reprehensible to think that human beings are allowed to stay in these conditions, and it's reprehensible that we don't do anything about it. But that's an example of how American slavery continues to be a vital part of keeping America's prison system functioning. And it's not just Parchman, by the way. Pretty much every prison in this country has some kind of prison industry that they use to put the good inmates to work and punish the other ones by disallowing them good jobs in the union factory, or in the prison factory, sorry.
It's the same reason we want money out of politics. If you put money into prisons, this is what happens.
Right, exactly. Parchman is not a private prison, but the incentive to keep a essentially like a free workforce that for the longest time Parchman inmates could be leased out. Those who did not work on the fields of the prison farm itself could be leased out to construction crews and all kinds of shit like that all throughout the South. Sometimes to out-of-state contractors even, transported all over the fucking deep South basically to work on infrastructure projects. In that fashion, much of the South's modern infrastructure, the highways we drive on to this day, were built with actual slave labor.
And maintained.
Looked at as that way. Yeah, maintained for the longest time. That practice didn't stop. That practice didn't stop until the 1970s.
Let me ask you, Phoebe. We don't really see chain gangs in California, but are there still chain gangs going on down there in the South?
No, that practice stopped in the 70s. That's what I was just saying. That's what a chain gang was, though. It was the state leasing out an inmate to a private contractor who would provide the state foreman with the blueprints and the designs and everything of whatever they were doing, the basic guidelines for the work to be done. And then the foreman and supervisors and guards would, order that work to be done and order that work. And that practice, as far as I know, the leasing of inmate labor to private companies was stopped in the 1970s. But there are still chain gangs in the sense that there are still there are still prison trash collection gangs, basically. They're not chained together like they used to be, or well, in some cases they are. But
and that's a protest, by the way. to be able to go outside and do that stuff, that's a privilege to them. It's considered a privilege.
Yeah, it's a high reward in prison, actually. Yeah, it's a reward for great behavior, being allowed to pick up garbage off the side of America's roadways and be made fun of by every soccer mom that drives by.
Right. And it's not that I don't believe in prisons, so to say, but I also believe in great reform. And I feel like the American people just want to see, they just want, what's the word I'm looking for? Revenge. They just want revenge. They want to see these people do the worst. You hear them say it all the time. Well, you're gonna get raped in prison. You're gonna get stabbed in prison. It's what you deserve. You know what I mean?
A lot of people look at prison like it should be a medieval dungeon. That's basically what you're talking about.
Correct.
And I've talked about this before a lot. I've got family members who work in corrections, and they've even agreed with me on this a little bit. There are some Americans who, the reason why I think these Americans are why it's so hard to get prison reform pushed through, because there are some Americans who look at prison like prison should be a medieval dungeon, like it should be a torture chamber. Like any abuse that happens to you while you're in prison is justifiable because, well, if you didn't want to go to prison, you shouldn't have committed a crime. So if you get raped in prison, that's just what happens. And that's reprehensible. You cannot look at sexual assault as a form of justice. That is a reprehensible, unallowable thought process. But there are some people who hold it.
Look what happens if they're lucky enough to get out alive. They're put on a short leash. If you mess up either once, you go back to prison. And no job wants you, except for labor jobs.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's it.
So you end up in like low-paying, blue-collar jobs for the most part that trap you in a cycle of poverty, where it is so tempting to turn back to that old life. Not only get high again, but you could also actually have some money rolling in again.
Right. Instead of getting paid like $25 an hour, busting your ass on a roof or on the side of a road, I can just do this and make a couple grand. And it's so tempting to just do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, and the thing is, like, some of the labor jobs that these guys end up with aren't even that good. I mean, there's some, like, there are a lot of felons who end up working in like fast food joints and shit.
Oh, it's $25. It might be a little. It's $25 an hour a little high. It might be a little bit high.
Well, I mean, you're in California, so like,
I mean, that's what they pay McDonald's workers. It's pretty high, $20 an hour or something like that.
Oh, in Mississippi, $20 an hour would be like enough to live like a king. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of work, I assume.
No, there's lots. It just pays like shit. Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. I constantly tell people about the South, like, the fucking problem is here, dude. Like, yeah, if you can manage to find a decently paying job, you can live pretty fucking easy down here. You don't have to hustle that hard. But finding that decent paying job is the fucking hard part. That's why one of the reasons why I'm so privileged as a person that works from home as a streamer for a living, living in Mississippi, because my bills are cheap, and they're made even cheaper by the fact that I work from home. And like the income that I make is enough to afford my bills and everything, despite the fact that I don't actually make all that much. Which means if I do start making a good clip, I'll be able to do a lot more with my money than, say, like if I lived in California or Washington or something like that.
But you recognize you're in a very privileged situation where you can, live with your parents,
All right, like I don't have to. Well, I mean, like,
I don't mean like in a dark, in a bad way. I'm just saying you don't have to pay rent.
It's not. Well, I do though. That's
but you do help. You do help.
Well, yeah, of course. That would be that'd be horrible. Well, what kind of situation would that be? No, I live with my parents because I'm the next generation of sharecroppers.
Correct. Yeah. Right.
So.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't have that. They don't have.
I get that.
A support system like that. Where they.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just as much a part of the system that pays our bills as either of them are. It's a collective effort.
I don't know how true this is, but I also believe this idea that you should go off without your family and then start your own family instead of a lot of like what the Chinese do, which is they got their family, they take care of their elderly. The Japanese are the same way. They don't just disappear from their family and move miles away and then only see them on the holidays or something. We could take care of each other, we could support each other, but that's not the American way.
I mean, I agree. I think that it would be a better world if well, I mean, like a lot of families in a lot of like the rural parts of America used to operate like this in theory, like the so like two parents, they buy a house and then they raise up a family, and two or three of their kids, all three of their kids move out, and then eventually when the parents start getting old, one of their kids moves back and moves into the house, and then they pass that house on down to them. And if that person had a family when they moved in to their childhood home, then that person and their wife or whatever raises, you know what I mean? And houses used to pass down the generations in very much that same fashion. Obviously, you can't have multiple, you can have like 2 or 3 families from the same generation effectively cohabitating together unless you've got a massive house. But like houses used to pass down, like this generational wealth used to be established and created this way, and it was very common for people to do that, and in doing so give themselves the opportunity to take care of their parents more directly. And that was one of the incentives behind it, and one of the reasons why you wanted to have your house paid off when you got older, is so that there was less burden on your kids when they, or whichever one of your kids moved back in to take care of you when you were old. And the fact that you had a house that was paid off meant that you didn't have to go to the nursing home or anything like that.
Well, I think it's even more nefarious than that, because to get by in America, both parents, unless this one parent has an exceedingly well-paying job or is rich, both parents usually have to work. So who's raising the kid? Well, usually it would be the grandparents who are looking after them. But what if there is no grandparents? So is a kid just alone by itself? Is it taking care of its smaller sibling? And it goes to show you, like, who's watching their kids when they go to school. You hear the teachers complain all the time. Yeah, my kid is way behind. He's not reading, he's not listening to instructions. He just wants to look at an iPad all day. And you hear a lot of parents, especially Republican parents, complain about that. Well, it's all because the parents just don't have time anymore. They don't have time.
Yeah, I don't buy that. Here's why. It is a choice whether or not you allow your kid to entertain themselves with an iPad, or here's the thing. In order for that kid to have an iPad, somebody had to hand it to them, and in order for that kid, but in order for that kid to grow up unmaimed and unharmed, there had to be somebody around keeping an ear out for them to make sure they didn't,
Right.
I don't know. As a parent, I can tell you, kids will do all kinds of insane shit. The younger they are, the more insane it is. There is got to be somebody watching a kid just to make sure they fucking survive, even to like early adolescence. And if there's somebody around doing that much, they could be actively interacting with that child, reading to that child every so often, showing that child different things outside and in, watching that child as they explore their environment and engage with things. They could be, if it's somebody that got them that as a toy to entertain them, they could have gotten them a number of other toys depending on their age range. Screens are the worst fucking thing you can do to a kid's brain. Regular, habitual access. It's fine if you want to watch a movie with your kid. I do it. It's fine if you want to let your kid watch some like TV in the morning. I do. It's part of my kid's morning routine. But it's like back in the 90s when you'd watch, Saturday morning cartoons for an hour, and then it's, on to something else.
Right, go outside. Right. Go play with your friends.
He gets bored with it after 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, he's not watching anymore. He's off to explore something else. And then I turn the TV off, and then, I'm just listening to something on my earbud usually. So, he's not being fed this constant stream of dopamine fueling, addiction fueling, hyper bullshit, and that is the greatest gift you can give to your kid is just the desire to interact on their own terms with their environment and stuff like that, and give them the tools to explore and read and learn without massive interference from screens.
Well, before we get off, let me ask you, Phoebe, how would you deal with it if you and your partner were still? Or, I don't want to say your business. How do I explain this?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll just blah 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 blah. Like, say you and your partner are both working, and you don't have a family to rely on, so you have to pay for daycare, I would assume.
Right.
So you're trying to pay off a house, I'm assuming, or something. You're paying for daycare. Groceries are more expensive. Gas is more expensive. In general, every living expense is more expensive. Right. How do you do it? Most people struggle a lot trying to do it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's. I don't know. I don't know if you're expecting me to say anything differently. Like, yeah, you're going to struggle mightily.
Well, that's just
I don't know what else to say.
The part that families could buy a piece of property, parents, siblings, and then they could develop this piece of property and work to put back into it, and probably live a very good life that way. But people aren't doing that for the most part.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it sucks. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. Everything is set against us. It's just like it goes back to my big thing about how we need 30 million people in Wall Street and Washington, D.C. None of the things that you're talking to me about are things that would be addressed by individual actions that we could take to make things better, except unless you're talking about the individual action of getting on a hippie bus and picking up 14 other people on your way to Washington, D.C.
Right.
That's an individual action you could take that would lead to change in this country. Yeah. But short of that, there's no way you can orient your life. Like, I guess you could win the lottery. You could start making money on YouTube like I did, which is not even a surefire method to gain a big income. Like, I guess you can get lucky, but short of that, there's really, like, yeah, we are all fucked over a barrel so hardcore these days that it's hard to even conceptualize how you would, like, make an individual decision or choice that would pull you out of that.
Right. Yeah. I hate to end it like that, but it just ends in frustration. That's all.
Yeah, it does. But I do have somebody else waiting, so unfortunately, I gotta kick you out, Matt.
All right, I'll see you. Bye.
Alrighty, good talk. Alrighty. Hello. Can you hear me? What's up? What do you want to talk about? You're not live yet, by the way. I just wanted to let you know. I just want to get a basic idea of the topic we want to talk about before I get you on. Okay, so I'm getting the impression that this is going to be a conversation about political advocacy. I'm assuming you're on the left. Okay, Well, with that, I can hear your mic. I can, yeah, I can hear your mic, and that's the main thing I need to know. Before we get into it, and before I send you the StreamYard link, what is your name and preferred pronouns? Okay, Levi and he, him. Okay, okay, I can remember that. Levi, he, him. Okay, I am going to send you a link real quick to your DMs, so make sure you check those. It will probably end up in your requests folder, but I just sent you a DM. Let me know when you receive that, and I will hop off here. You just click that link, and it will ask for permission in your browser to use your mic, and we'll get it set up. Let's see here. Waiting for you to pop up. Okay. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and mute up over here, and I will see you over there. You might want to hang up out of this call before we get started over there. All right, what's up, Levi?
Nothing much. How are you doing?
I'm good. Before we get into it, I got the super chat from Margot to Hell. Thank you for the $5. It's late. I'm going to bed. Good night to all except for some conservative chatter. I don't know. Thank you, Margot, for the $5. All right. So when we were talking in Discord, you were talking about political advocacy and things you could do to be more politically effective in your conversations, or
yeah, that sounds about correct. I want to be able to better explain things, be able to better articulate myself, but I think, I don't know, I might have a memory problem or something, because lately when I've been struggling with life issues for the past 7 years now, and it's kind of took a toll on my brain and my memory. And I just don't know, like, if I need to restart with the basics, like Peter Kropotkin's A Conquest of Bread, or other basic economic stuff, because a lot of it, especially with the recent conversation I was in with a friend who is like a libertarian, free market kind of guy, and he's also in favor of empires as long as they're good empires. He's one of those people who thinks that Dr. Doom from like the Avengers and Fantastic Four was a good guy. So I don't know. I try to pin him down on like whether or not he's a fascist or not, but he keeps on pivoting and saying, no, I want something that's similar to America, but it needs to be enforced all over the world through military force, because otherwise people won't listen, people won't negotiate, people only understand violence. And it's, I don't know.
So he is a fascist. Oh, okay. No, that's the clearest sign, honestly. That's all you needed to hear to know that they're a fascist. I mean, honestly, fascists don't necessarily have to have like super cogent and coherent philosophies that make sense. By the way, do you have the stream going on in the background?
No, I don't think I do.
I keep hearing a weird ringing sound, and it's just a little, I don't know.
Is it a low hum or is it a high-pitched sound?
Well, it almost sounds like there might be a bit of a, like an echo. Are you using headphones?
No, I'm using my phone's mic.
Is it going through your speaker though?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe I should put on my headset, or
if you have a headset, that would be amazing, because that'll cancel that right out.
Okay. Let me see here. Let me turn my Bluetooth on. Hopefully this will work. Uh-oh.
It will. StreamYard will let you do it. You might have to adjust something on your end, though. You might have to like leave the studio and come back, for example.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Let me see if I hear the. No, I still hear the thing. Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I here. Hopefully
Let me
this.
see. Can I hear myself now? Damn, I can still hear myself in there a little bit. Damn.
I'm using my earbuds are connected, but it's not going through for some reason. I don't know why. Let me.
Try leaving the studio and coming back in.
Okay. Let me just turn my headset on and. Okay. All right. Testing.
Testing.
Ah, crap. It's still not going through my earbuds for some reason. I don't know why.
Are they connected to your phone?
Yeah.
Okay, leave the studio and come back, and it should pick it up.
Okay.
Tech support with Phoebe. Tech support with Phoebe. Tech support with
All right, I'm
Phoebe
back.
every day. Alrighty. And I don't hear myself.
Yay!
Nice. Look at that. Studio quality audio out of both of us. Oh, look at that. Wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about political advocacy. Yes, you do need to read theory, but you don't need to be worrying about reading it all at once. Just, find an audiobook of some Kropotkin or some Tolstoy and let it play while you're doing the dishes. That's good enough. Also, you need to watch less YouTube videos. I know it's tempting, and I know I've got no right to speak, being a YouTube creator myself, but honestly, documentaries are a way better way of getting a grasp on specific topics than like YouTube videos are. That doesn't mean there aren't particular creators who are really good at making really high quality, well-researched content. A few examples would be like Practical Engineering, Grady Hillhouse, Tasting History by Max Miller does like 20-minute topical videos on different food
I
history
watch
things,
him.
Yeah, he's a great example of a reliable, well-researched channel that presents a lot of good information. Behind the Bastards, pretty good podcast to watch if you want to understand more about some of the horrible figures throughout history. There are good YouTube sources, but I would also advise you to look into two documentarians that'll help you understand a lot about how America got to the point that it is now. Those two documentarians are Michael Moore and Adam Curtis.
Okay. Yeah, I know Michael Moore. But he's the guy who's like, I go to Norway and they all have nice picket fences, or something. I don't know. I'm trying to do an impression. It's failing.
Pretty good, actually. It's Monday morning. The milkman is delivering his milk. And somewhere in Syria, 1,000 pounds of explosives were just dumped on the head of an Iranian child.
Yeah, he also, the friend I'm talking to, he also thinks it's a good idea to, he believes the way Trump is doing it is bad, but he believes it's a good idea to invade Iran because they're an evil dictatorship and they kill homosexuals and they deserve to be he basically wants it to be like Puerto Rico or something like that, to be a state, a part of the United States. And I'm just thinking, how can you be in favor of fair trade and free
also
economics?
In favor of, hardcore colonialism.
Yeah. He always tries to word his way around it. He also thinks blacks are better off being here because they now today they have a better quality of life than they do in Africa. Look at Africa; it's a shithole. And I try to explain to him it's because, I try to explain to him that it's because of Western nations fucking it to death. And he's like, oh, you can't put all the blame on Western nations. That's not fair, or something like that.
Not fair. Huh? Wait, hold on. The Africans didn't like beat European leaders over the head with sticks and make them oppress them. It's not
Yeah.
like the Zulus were. It's not like the Zulus were. We will only cast our spear if you do not oppress us. It's like, huh? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't track.
Yeah. It's funny because I try, to reason with him where on a baser level, because we're both fans of cartoons and stuff like that. I try to reason, like, Aang in Avatar, he chose not to kill the Fire Lord. He chose a better way than pure violence. And he just like brushes that over. Like, yeah. He says like, oh, well, there is a better way. But before we get to that part, we need to conquer everything or else people won't listen to reason or something like that.
Listen.
I don't. Yeah.
I'm afraid your friend does not want like a political, like they don't want political advocacy. I feel like we're running into the same thing with your situation that we ran into with Matt's, but from a different direction. You guys seem to get along okay, but what you're running into is the desire that some people have for just pure, plain and simple bloodshed. There are just some people that want to see their way of life propagated at the end of a sword, and I think the best way of getting through to those people is just showing how that has been effective throughout. Like, for example, if that you said that earlier, that person, I idolizes this idea of an America that expands its empire globally and makes the whole world, goes after that with a violent, ragged edge. And America has tried this for a long time. For a long time now, America has been trying to use its, long and well-armed arm of war, basically, to influence the politics of other countries, to try and make them adopt Western democracy. And there have been nothing but spectacular failures in this regard, Iran being the chief among them. In 1953, we deposed democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. In his place, we raised the Shah back to a position of monarchical absolute power. Under the Shah's reign, he modernized Iran, but also introduced a number of authoritarian reforms that made him an enemy of a lot of common people, and he introduced many secularizing reforms that made him an enemy of the clergy, which was how he was able to be so roundly overthrown and resisted in 1979. And it is only because of Western interference in that country that they ended up going that direction, because Prime Minister Mossadegh wanted to modernize the country too. Prime Minister Mossadegh wanted to nationalize the oil, though, and that wasn't going to fly unless the person who nationalized the oil was a Western-backed puppet who wouldn't tax it too heavily, which is why they elevated the Shah to prominence. And that project ended in 1979 when the people of Iran roundly rejected the United States puppet rule of Iran.
So basically, like, I don't know, it seems like the only nation that was successfully, assimilated into American democracy was Japan. But that was like its own can of worms, so I'm still trying to figure out. It had
what?
Oh, yeah, it had an like all the war crimes that Japan did in World War II was kind of overlooked, and it was encouraged by the United States to not suffer the consequences as much as it could have. And a lot of Eastern countries to this day find it still unfair, and some of them boycott Japanese products and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I mean, a lot of the reason why I think that Japan has been so successful is because the United States helped to rebuild its industry massively after World War II under the conditions that we be allowed to build military bases there, and maintain a physical presence there. We have, I think, the reason why the Japanese project was successful, where all these other ones weren't, is number one, we were able to take complete control of the country. We were never able to consolidate control in a lot of these other instances. In Iran, our Western-backed ruler did consolidate control in the country, but they went too authoritarian with it. Went way too authoritarian with it. We let them way too off the chain. We actually taught them how to torture people. We didn't teach Japan how to torture people, as far as anyone knows, and we persisted in the Japanese project with a sort of economic and military dedication that we really haven't seen in any of these other instances. And that's why I think Japan is a successful colony of the Americas, or of the Americans, I should say, where like Iran didn't work out, Afghanistan didn't work out. None of these other countries have really worked out where we've tried this. Venezuela is not really working out. I mean, the person leading Venezuela is just Maduro's vice president. Yeah, they've got a better relationship with the United States now because they're trying to put themselves in a better position to negotiate the freedom of their leader. You know, it's not exactly a tactic that works well in the modern day, and I think that part of that's due to the presence of public accountability, and a lot of it's due to the lack of a cohesive national project. The thing that united the neocons was a shared myth about America, a shared set of myths about America and life. That is what united the neoconservatives. If you want to learn more about this, watch The Power of Nightmares by Adam Curtis. Free here on YouTube. Watch it. But neoconservatives were united around a common myth. That common myth no longer exists, and people are so invested in their personal fortunes or in their personal political career that I don't know that it's possible for us to launch a successful colonization effort anymore.
Yeah. The crazy thing, you know, I don't know how much you know about nerd stuff or nerd culture, like Star Wars or whatever, but he keeps on bringing up that, Palpatine in Star Wars, he was actually secretly a communist. He just said, hey, I got to break a few eggs in order to bring peace to the Empire. So why not just kill? Like, I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me. Like, why would you root for the obvious bad guy in a story just to be edgy? I don't know. Like,
well, we established earlier that he's a fascist, and I think that this goes into that, right? Like, fascists all believe this. That the fascists in Germany believed that they would establish a beautiful German empire that was capable of taking care of all of its citizens and providing like this wonderful nanny state for everyone that lived there. It just had to genocide a couple million Jews along the way to get there, you know? And in their minds, that was acceptable losses in order to establish Lebensraum. Not only that, they obviously looked at, there was a bunch of anti-Semitism at the core of it. Obviously, the whole project was anti-Semitic, but there was like this idea that the Jewish people were like an enemy of Europeans, all this other crazy horse shit. But like at the core of it was this idea that we have to do some pretty nasty things in order to achieve this beautiful, wonderful world we'll all live in the aftermath.
Yeah, and I don't know how to explain to him as much as I already have. Like, what I tried telling him, what you're saying is fascist. Stop being fascist, and he just kind of keeps on going. Like, no, I don't mean it fascist. I just want it to be a free economic world, just conquered by either America or some other free capitalist nation, or like the European Union or something like that. But I just don't.
Oh yeah, the European Union is going to launch an invasion into a sovereign country to bring freedom and democracy. Sorry, I think that's America's gig.
Yeah. He just thinks like America is the most up to it just because we're the only ones that are willing to do it, I guess.
Yeah, because we're the only ones willing to go to war for no reason other than to convert them to our stupid way of doing life.
Yeah. And also, like, I also try to explain to him that this line of logic that you have to break a few eggs in order to make an omelet kind of goes back to don't focus on the billionaires that control everything. Focus on these minority groups. Focus on the gays. Focus on
The immigrant, the Jew, the Muslim, etc.
Yeah. And basically just like, oh, well, these people don't matter because they're different from us, and it's much easier to pick on your neighbor than it is to pick on somebody stronger than you, So
Right. Not only that, but everybody, in theory, has at least met a Jewish person or a Muslim. Maybe not a Jewish person. There's like very few Jewish people actually, but Muslims are a pretty big group of people. Most people have met a Muslim at least one time in their life. Immigrants. Most people have met an immigrant at least one time in their life. So it feels like an attackable enemy. And simple-minded but very desperate people love ready-made enemies like that. Immigrants, Jewish people, gay people, people that they meet but so rarely that they haven't had an opportunity for contact theory to teach them better about all the reactionary things they're being told about these groups. And so they go along with it out of convenience because they need something to blame for their lives that is not their unwillingness to rise up and fight for something better, or that isn't a rejection of their political beliefs, which a lot of people hold so near and dear to their heart that they are more important to them. Ultimately, their narrative is more important to them than making sense. Like, Levi, to you and me, making sense, right, is pretty important. Would you agree?
Yeah. Being concise and coherent.
And consistent, right?
Yeah.
To some degree. Yeah, that just does not matter to them, period, whatsoever.
Yeah, he also believes in a type of eugenics where if we legalize all drugs but don't give any government benefits for anything like that, then we can weed out the weak-willed people that are easily addicted to drugs. And I'm just like, whoa.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That is the most colossally stupid thing I've ever heard in my life, dude.
Yeah, weed out the weak people by legalizing drugs.
Dude, yeah, literally, like, hey, like, what if we had the purge, but for the rest of our lives? Wouldn't that be neat? Like, what if you could just, like, buy meth in a grocery store? You're 10 years old, go in there, buy a baggie, it's fine. Like, what if that, Like, what if, man? I don't know, dude. Pass the pipe and I'll think about it. Like, what if... What a fucking retarded idea. The only way that drug legalization works as a policy and doesn't just make your country worse is if you provide government services that allow people to get rehab. You have to provide that taxpayer funding. You have to redistribute a little bit of the fucking massive wealth that every modern economy creates into services that help people get off of hard drugs. And you have to divert some of your money to resources that help people understand drugs better. So they know it's okay to have a cigarette at a bar every now and again, but don't develop a daily habit. It's okay to have a drink every now and again, but try not to develop a daily habit. Like, et cetera, et cetera. If you're going to have a daily habit with a drug, here's the ways you can do it in moderation, and here's the way you shouldn't. We are not honest about drug education in this country, and it's one of the reasons why we struggle so mightily with addiction.
Yeah. He's also a massive Zionist, and he thinks that it's a war. Yeah. So I don't even know, now that I'm talking about this, I don't even know why I consider him a friend. It's probably because he goes to Magic the Gathering with me, and
yeah, exactly.
I have somebody to talk to when I'm either bored, and I'm currently unemployed and partially disabled. And I a lot of times I don't have anything to do during the day except talk to some random person. And with his job, being a mailman, he's able to talk on the phone and deliver packages at the same time, like pretty casually.
Right.
I just think, I don't know. everybody around me, like at the Magic the Gathering, are saying like, "Oh, he's a chaos monkey. He doesn't really care about ideology. He just wants to wreck shit or something like that." And just like, okay, a chaos monkey who believes in eugenics, like.
I mean, I hate to say it, but I think they have a point. Here's the thing: a chaos monkey can still fucking believe in some reprehensible shit. Don't you agree that letting a bunch of crazy tweakers completely off the fucking chain by providing them cheap, clean, free, like meth, don't you think that that would be a pretty fucking quick recipe to some accelerationist shit, you know? Like,
yeah.
I can think of no better a recipe for accelerationism than by letting every fucking tweaker, crackhead, and junkie in this country completely off the chain and giving them a ready supply of fresh, clean meth, you know? Like, this seems like a, you know, meth, crack, PCP, there's your fucking recipe for accelerationism, and no government services for rehabilitation. There you go. I think they're actually providing a pretty astute observation of that person's politics, and that's why, because people like that can't attain power these days. I'm not saying people like that can't attain power at all, but what I'm saying is that even Trump isn't actually a person like that. What does Trump actually care about? Billionaires.
Money, or,
exactly.
Yeah.
He cares about the money. He cares about being seen as a person who's not fucking with the money. He cares about being seen as like a businessman. Like, it's money. Money is the fucking thing that runs his brain. He just, like, literally just fucking pulls the rhetoric of any political movement that he wants to in order to convince voters. He's not actually somebody like this friend you're talking about. People like that exist in the Trump administration, but you remember what I was saying earlier, or maybe I wasn't saying it to you, maybe I was saying it to Matt, I don't remember, but I was talking to somebody earlier about how we don't have a cohesive narrative. How the neoconservatives, or even if you look at the post-war conservative and liberal divide, if you look at the politics of the 20th century, there was a national project. There was a cohesive set of national myths that tied everyone together, regardless of party, religion, creed, or otherwise. There were these deep underlying concepts, and today, no such underlying narrative exists, and it doesn't even exist along party lines. There's not even like a cohesive party narrative, either among the Democrats or the Republicans. Depending on who you ask in the Republican Party, the fault of all the world's problem is either trans people, Mexicans, Somalians, Jews, like they've got all kinds of different answers. Anti-Semites, like they've got literally conflicting answers as to who the biggest problem in the world today is. And that's like evidence of the lack of an underlying narrative that would tie these people together or allow them to engage in any kind of like actually chaotic shit. It's like the Nazis were only able to commit a genocide because a critical mass of the German people all believed in the same bullshit.
Yeah. I think, it's hard to like really describe to somebody when you're talking about the negative things about America or American culture without them going into the territory of, oh, you just think everything in America is bad. You just think America is bad no matter what. And like, no, that's not what we're saying. They're the cause for a lot of things. I was listening to this therapist. I forgot her name, but she talks about, I know this sounds a little off topic, but just go with me. She talks about how her therapy program for raising a child is called Good Inside, because she believes that people need to be considered good in order to properly address their bad behaviors, in order to separate the bad behaviors from a good soul.
Yeah.
And my friend, he constantly believes that all humans are bad. And I just think this is probably where the problems lie, If you
Yep.
start thinking humanity is bad or fundamentally evil, that just justifies doing whatever you want to them because they're bad, so we can control them, rape them, to exploit their resources. Doesn't matter. They're bad. It's kind of one of the reasons why I don't follow Christianity, because it predicates itself on this fundamental idea that you're sinful. But wait, there's good news. The universe was created for you and all of humanity somehow. But you just need to give yourself up to a higher power, and therefore you'll become good once you go to heaven or some
Right.
shit like that. And it's just,
Right.
it's all a scam. It's all, it's trying to convince people to break themselves down while also building themselves up mentally in obscure and grotesque ways. It's that other guy you had on, the guy, the Gnostic, that guy.
That's not. They're not a guy.
Oh yeah, they're they them. Sorry, I'm sorry.
I think.
But they believe that God is fundamentally evil, and is Yaldabaoth. And I did some study into Gnosticism. The only problem I have with it is that it states that the physical world, since it was created by Yaldabaoth, that it's therefore the material world is evil. And from what I've studied, even though mainstream Christianity at some point destroyed a lot of Gnosticism, they kept the idea that the spirit is good, the material bad, and that justified the whole, we can't have sex before marriage. That's not pure. We can't engage in worldly desires. That's a part of the physical world and therefore bad. That's the only real problem I have with it. And I would like to talk with that person, if I can, about what they believe and stuff like that, because that's very interesting to me. But ultimately, I think this whole debate of whether or not, because to me, I think people aren't necessarily good or bad. They just are. If you want to classify all humanity as good or all as evil, that's just an overgeneralization. And that kind of fails to see the point that good and evil is subjective terms. And if we can just separate the label of good and evil from humanity and just accept it as what it is, we can actually get somewhere,
Yeah, good and evil are propaganda terms. This doesn't mean that it's wrong to use them. It doesn't mean that it's amoral to use them. There's nothing amoral about propaganda inherently. But they are propaganda terms. To say something is good is to award it moral weight. To say something is bad is to deny it moral weight, essentially, or to imply that it has negative moral weight, indeed. As a result, because it is, like you said, a subjective term, it can be applied equally to things that would be found reprehensible by the party applying it in the other direction or whatever. So they're not actually useful terms in terms of trying to define human being psychology, because in order to define human beings as inherently good or inherently bad, you would have to define inherently good or inherently bad, and those are going to mean very different things depending on the goals and axioms of the person you're talking to. To me, if it reduces human suffering overall and does not involve the undue denial of anyone's bodily autonomy, it is good. But there are many things that would be acceptable or morally righteous, such as under that framework, like abortion or same-sex relationships and things like that, would be considered absolutely reprehensible to someone on the far right or a conservative like Christian or something like that. And that's why these terms are not really useful if you're trying to like describe human psychology. But I do want to say this much. Something you were talking about your therapist said, I believe you said it was your therapist.
No, it was a therapist I listened to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a therapist you listen to. Yeah, okay. So I've heard that I've heard other people say that same thing about how if you are to try and live as a good person, you need to look at yourself as a good person because it helps give you some baseline by which to judge yourself, and it also it just helps your self-image. And if you think you're a good person, you're more likely to engage in the kinds of things you think a good person would do. So I actually fully agree with that therapist. Whether or not human beings are good at heart or not, I think is impossible to tell. But you should try to think of yourself as a good person and act according to that belief.
Yeah, well said. Also, I kind of, one of your past streams, I really thought of bringing this up earlier, but this last conversation kind of had me up in a tizzy. But I've been really mad at left-leaning YouTube creators recently. They all seem to be they're all obsessed with sensationalism, and they all of the major ones like Destiny and Hassan and Bosch, they're all bad people. Like Hassan's an animal abuser, Destiny's a sex pest, and Bosch is also a sex pest, and yet they get a pass from their viewers, and nobody seems to pay attention. I look at another leftist creator and I say, "Oh, this person's good," and then they say, well, "Check out what Hassan did. Check out what he said." And it's just like, really, do I really have to even care? Like,
Levi,
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Levi,
I've just been wanting to talk about this to somebody for a while.
Levi, I want to dig into this more, but I need to grab me a cigarette and use the bathroom and grab me a drink of water. But I do want to dig into this more. Do you have like 20 more minutes?
Yes.
Okay, just give me like a minute. I'm going to put my headphones down and my microphone down. If you want to entertain the chat, feel free. Please don't say the N-word with a hard R.
Oh, I won't say any of the gamer words. Don't worry.
Yeah, please don't say a gamer word.
Yeah. Well, just us chat. What do you wish to chat about? It is time for Eureka! No, I'm not. No. I'm bad. I'm a bad person. No. But, yeah. If any of y'all are interested, I would like to just say I love you all, and there's somebody out there, even if you don't feel like it, there's somebody out there that loves you and cares about you. There's always somebody out there. Nobody's totally unlovable unless you're Donald Trump. No. But yeah, your life has meaning because everybody else you're human, and as long as you're living with humans, your life has meaning. And even if there are no people around, your life still has meaning to you. It always will. So, keep your guys' chins up. Don't give in to despair. I know I've been trying to do that myself recently, not to give in to that D word. But yeah, I really think that there is some hope. I know there's a lot of doomer stuff on the internet right now, but I think, this time shall pass. hopefully 1984 won't happen. But even if it does, that time will pass. So yeah, just keep. I wouldn't want to say keep the faith, but don't give up. Row, fight the power. No. I can't see chat right now. Let me actually see if I can. Oh, I can't see chat right now. But yeah. I know Flebby likes to sing. Me. I am the great mighty Pooh, and I'm going to throw my shit at you. A giant supply of tears feeds my... Oh, I forgot the lyrics. Shit. That horny ass Christmas song.
We ball.
You singing that horny Christmas song?
Yeah. Santa baby. Yeah, I like that. I like
Santa baby, please fuck my asshole. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I don't want to get bogged down in the details as to whether or not Bosch, Destiny Hassan, etc. is or is not a bad person, because I think that if you dig up enough dirt on pretty much any person in the modern day, you're probably going to find some things that make them look pretty disagreeable. And depending on who you are and what your principles are, that, I guess, is a pretty decent gauge of the perceived severity of those slights. What I really am interested in is the sensationalism angle and the angle of, so there's two ways I want to approach this. Number one, I want to cover the sensationalism thing. And number two, I want to go over the separating art from artist thing. But let's start off on the first thing you said, which was the sensationalism. I am of the opinion that this is a consequence of the algorithm. If you look at my titles to my streams, they are incredibly sensationalist. I will read the news article. I will spend 20 to 30 minutes reading news articles before I'll start my stream. And based on the news headlines, not the articles themselves necessarily, but the headlines, I use that as a basis on what keywords to include in the title and how to phrase things in order to generate a better algorithmic response. I feel like that's just kind of something that you have to do in the modern day just to survive on one of these platforms, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think using the tools of capitalism to try and take it down isn't always the best idea. I don't know.
Well, how do you think, just out of curiosity, what exactly would we do instead?
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm not smart enough. I just know that sometimes the sensationalism doesn't really help with the reporting of facts or accurate information. It kind of either over exaggerates it or I don't know, or downplays other things. I'm trying to think of an example, but I just think that we need to go back to the way YouTube was, but I don't know how we would do that or accomplish that. It's just I miss the days where there was a certain topic and it would get your attention, but it didn't need a crazy cringe thumbnail of somebody's face going "oh," or something like that, or I don't know. It just and sometimes with accurate information, sometimes a lot of not just the left or the right does this, but it seems like doomer scrolling is kind of a thing, and sometimes just focusing on the negative aspects of the world isn't really doing any favors with people's mental health, and especially mine. But I understand. Yeah. It's I just think. Continue. I just think for me personally, all it really does is get me mad that I can't control the world. Like I can't change or have any part in the way things are. I know I'm just one person, and I'm not how my friend thinks. I'm not going to be an Ubermensch or a great man that's going to change the world with his own power alone. That's just a fantasy. But
yeah, it's a Ryan fantasy.
Yeah. I just want to feel like I'm making an impact, without.
I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. There is a glut of content online coming out of the left right now, but almost all of it's pretty much universally negative coverage of what the right is doing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that it wasn't always like this, and I'm of the belief that it can get back to, in fact, I want my channel to become a bastion of what I want to see. So let me clarify. It wasn't always like this. If you look at Bosch, for example, he started out, like debating Nazis and shit, but he would also do these long streams going into what praxis is, what is community organizing, what is mutual aid. And this sort of like video essay type of content used to be, I mean, you can find videos like this on Hassan's channel, you can find videos like this on Bosch's channel. It has stopped and dried up, I think, because there has been a certain cynicism that has taken hold amongst regular people and a lot of leftist content creators where they feel the same kind of defeatist but righteous anger. And like they feel this righteous anger and indignation at the system that exists, that is oppressing all of us, but also this immense defeatism at the weight of the problem. And I think in a lot of people's minds, the only way to fight against it is to like call it out. And I think a lot of people think that, I think, I'm just going to say it, I think a lot of people are cynical in regards, like a lot of content creators on the left, I think are cynical in regards to the type of content they're choosing to make. Insofar as I think that there is right now a heavy financial incentive to not make those kinds of videos, to not, like, yes, to explain to people how the Trump administration is horrible and how the system of capitalism is responsible for getting us involved in this Iran war, but not why systems of capital, or I'm sorry, why the system of capitalism causes capital to accrue at the top and causes power to like emerge in this hierarchical fashion. I think that type of content needs to come back, because I think that it is the best way of like affecting kind of a bulwark against that cynicism that we've been talking about. You need to tell people not just why things are fucked up and how things are fucked up, but what they can do in their lives to help make a small difference, what they can do politically or with other people to make a difference, right?
Yes, exactly. And I wish people like Kyle Kalinske would be more like that, but all he's doing is like freaking out, and then I freak out with him, and I'm just like, well, what do we do? And he doesn't answer, and just like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I watch Hassan and Kyle Kalinske both religiously because, for all of their for all of Vosh's flaws and for all of Kyle's like, you know, DNC adjacency, I still think that they have some of the like, well, Kyle has, I think, a lot of like timely calls with certain shit, and I think Vosh is a pretty good like heartbeat on the attitude of the like, you know, the edgy left, I guess. So I feel you. It's the same thing on Vosh's channel and Kyle's channel. There is a despondence about the way things are going. There is an anger at the way things are going. And there are solutions hinted at, but neither of them are telling people what I've been telling people for the last year. And what I've been telling people for the last year is that you need, not you individually, but all of us individually need, one of us has to start it, but we all of us need to go to Washington, D.C. and Wall Street, 30 million of us strong, divided between those two places, sitting in with 5 demands for as long as it takes for those demands to get reached. There is a way for us to make a collective change. I just don't, I don't see any of the big leftist creators advocating for that kind of democratic engagement. And I don't know if that's because they're worried about it coming back on them legally in some way, or if it's because they, like, honestly, I mean, leftist content creators, like, a couple of them have been targeted by the fucking Trump administration, but none of the big ones, you know. Kadaba Ghazaleh is facing an indictment, but, like, you know,
Yeah.
is Vosh, is Hassan, is Destiny, is Kyle, you know, no, none of these guys are. And none of them probably ever will. And I think that there might be some financial incentives playing into that. Like, would it really benefit a guy like Destiny for the entire order of the country to be upset and for capitalism to start officially being pushed on its way out?
Yeah. I see what you mean. The thing is that I just think I was told actually by Aaron Raw when I called into his show on the line. He said to join your local DNC or your local Satanist organization, and I don't think I want to join the DNC for obvious reasons. I mean, sure, Zoran Madami got elected, but that doesn't mean the Democratic Party is free of its bullshit.
Yeah, because he got elected against the will of the Democratic Party. The Dems pretty much put their weight behind Cuomo.
Yeah. And, you know, the interesting thing is, you know, kind of going back to what my friend, even though he has all these beliefs, for some reason likes Zoran Mondani. I have no idea why. Like, he's like, oh, he's good, but he's only good for New York, and that's it. Like, okay. Like, I don't know. I'm going to have to reiterate.
Do you live in the country?
Yes, I live in
Yep.
I live in southern Colorado, the southern Colorado area, where yeah.
I can explain this perfectly. Rural people think that socialism works fine for the city folk, but it don't work out here in the country. That's literally, I guarantee you that's part of the thought process. You should ask him about it next time you guys have a political conversation. Just be like, what makes you think that it's good for New York, but not good for, like, why wouldn't it work in Mississippi? Because I can tell you right now, a lot of Zoran Mondani's policies would work just as well down here in the Deep South. And in fact, the Deep South has kind of quietly been introducing, at least Mississippi has, some reforms that would be considered progressive if they were being done anywhere else in the country, that are inherently progressive, but that aren't framed as progressive moves in the political environment down here. Like, for example, we are now like number 4 in childhood literacy or something like that. So most children in Mississippi can read. The vast majority of children in Mississippi can read. You're more likely to read as a child competently if you live in Mississippi than you are if you live in any other state in the union besides New York, Massachusetts, or California. Yeah, and that
Okay.
is because we introduced policies that were effective, and we started investing into the schools. We started giving teachers free educations if they would agree to a 5-year service commitment in the state of Mississippi. We started investing into these programs, and they started paying dividends in the form of our literacy rates going way, 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 way up, and our general position, like in testing, we're number like I think we're number 32 or something. We're middle of the pack now, where we used to be the worst schools in the country. So these reforms work.
Yeah. And it's also proven in like other countries like Norway or Sweden that universal healthcare works, and that uh, what else? A lot of their other social reforms, like housing homeless people, which isn't there is no perfect solution to you know the to the homeless issue, but we can at least house them or give them some kind of place to put their stuff and get their shit in order, because how else are they supposed to make a living or restart their lives? Because I think there's this YouTube channel called Real Stories, and it's this former homeless guy that interviews a bunch of other homeless people, not just in America but in other places. And he did a short documentary about the housing, I think in Finland, and he gave a very nuanced take on the issue. Like, it's not a perfect solution. Like, some of these people need more than just housing. They probably need therapy or other
Some of
social
them
help.
some of them need live-in caregivers.
Yeah. One of the people he interviewed said that, my life might be a little bit better now than it was, but I still need to get off drugs. And in a lot of ways, I'm still in the same shithole that I was in before I got this house, So there is, there's always nuance to every solution. There's never going to be a perfect solution, but we can try, we can always make things better.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, thinking you've achieved the perfect system is one of the quickest poisons to revolutionary attitudes and positive change that your country can possibly have. I mean, it's basically the infection that America's suffering under right now. It's the delusion that we're suffering under right now, that we have, we decided right around, I don't know, between the 70s and the 80s, America decided that it had the perfect system and it was immune to reform and nothing needed to be changed. And we have pretty much been running with that narrative ever since. And now our country's falling apart, but nobody wants to challenge this baseline narrative that everything that led up to this was perfect. We don't need to re-examine any of it. The only cohesive national myth we have left is that America is perfect and unchallengeable. And that's not it doesn't actually work. It's an anti-narrative almost, because it makes people feel as if there is nothing that can be done. I think that mindset is partly responsible for the can't do attitude that we detect out of so many Americans these days.
Yeah. And we need to learn from France, because the French, they would not, if some of the stuff that's happening right now in our country were happening over there would be cars overturned, buildings on fire. They do not, it's not, like I said, it's not perfect, but they have a level of cognitive awareness that they need to exercise their rights if they want to keep them. And right. I think America can learn something from that.
We definitely need to learn something from that. I mean, that really is what we got to get back to, because Americans used to feel that way. I mean, if you look at the Kent State protests, you look at the Watts riots, you look at the Rodney King riots, there have been times, you look at the national civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, you look at the Summer of Love, 1969, the Million Man March. There are so many things. America used to have, America still has a storied history of protest and collective action. But we need to embrace that spirit again, and we need to start bringing back those tactics into the modern day and applying them again, because that cynicism, and I keep going back to it, but it really does. I feel like we are as Americans, we are in the same position that Russians were in towards the end of the Soviet Union, where there was just complete cynicism in the system. Nobody believed in it. Nobody wanted it to continue. Nobody knew what was going to come next. And I really feel like we gotta figure out like some kind of national movement that pushes people towards something that's productive and positive and builds a better world. Because when you have a system collapse with that kind of widespread cynicism and nobody knows what to do instead, you get strong men like Putin that rise up in the aftermath. You just get more of the same. You get more garbage and a different set of flavorings. But if you capitalize on that cynicism, if you give something better to believe in that is a positive change, well, that's how a lot of Western Europe ended up making its, part of what socialized Western Europe was World War II and the recovery effort, and part of it was, a series of different, like, populist uprisings against governments who have proven feeble and unable to protect or even advance the interests of their people.
Yeah. So what do you think I should do? Like, do you think I should look up a local organization of some kind to join, or I'm far away from Denver, so at least a couple of hours, and I don't think there's probably a local
closer to Trinidad or Denver?
I think I'm closer to Trinidad.
Alrighty. Okay. So there's probably, because you're in Colorado, there are probably some chapters of the Democratic Socialists of America and the Socialist Rifle Association that are somewhere near your area. I'm assuming you live on the eastern slopes.
I live in like right in between or right below. I don't know. I'm bad at geography. I'm like in between Canyon City and Pueblo, and Pueblo is yeah.
Okay, so you've got access then. You've got access then to a number of population centers. One of them is probably going to have a local branch of the Democratic Socialists of America, and that is really the political org that should be getting credit for Mamdani's victory, not the Democrats who pretty roundly allied around Cuomo, but the Democratic Socialists of America, which is the party affiliation that Soran had before he ran as mayor for NYC. Look into the DSA, look into the Socialist Rifle Association, and I hate to sound like Aaron Ra, but part of the reason why you might want to look into joining a local DNC org or whatever, or like doing some volunteer work with them or something like that, is not because you want to advance the interests of the DNC. You can functionally do very little work for the DNC, like on a, in a major way, while still organizing with people there who will help you find more like-minded people. There's actually a Lenin quote that talks about this. Let me see if I can find it. Let me find it real quick. Okay, it's about to come up. I guarantee it. I guarantee you it's going to come up. Yeah, so let's see here. This is from Marxist.org. So, let's see here. Let me fucking do a search in page. Search in page. Find. Okay. Whilst you lack the strength to do away with bourgeois parliaments and every other type of reactionary institution, You must work within them, because it is there that you will still find workers who are duped by the priests and stultified by the conditions of rural life. Otherwise, you risk turning into nothing but windbags. I disagree with Lenin on most things, with the possible exception of that quote. I do think that there is good work to be done within these institutions on a local or state level, and I think that more than that, they are useful for connecting to people who are not yet as radical as you are.
Okay. Yeah. Lenin, like, I was just wondering if you could confirm this for me. Did Lenin kill his son?
I don't know. I've never heard that before, but maybe. I mean, there was a lot of death and destruction that happened in the wake of the Bolshevik Revolution. Like I said, I'm not a Leninist, and I'm not really a defender of the Soviet Union. I think that the Soviet Union was a pretty badly fucking managed and designed system. But Lenin did get a few things right throughout his life, and I think that that was one of them.
Do you think one of the things that went wrong, or the fundamental flaw in his philosophy, is that you can use violence to justify the takeover of the proletariat class?
Or that you can use violence to advance it? Yeah, I think that that's one of the reasons why it was easy for the Western powers to attack Soviet Russia as an imperialist power, for sure, yeah. I think that the violent overthrow of the proletarian being like ideal solution kind of thing, I think that rhetoric has usually worked against communist and socialist. Sorry, having some problems. I think that that's usually worked against socialist and communist activists in the past. I think that we should probably be like Marx himself thought that that communism could be achieved here in America non-violently through voting. So the originator of the label communist in a literary sense, literally, he believed in establishing global communism in methods that were non-violent. Now, he predicted that violent uprisings would be a part of the transition from a capitalist world to a socialist one, and then probably a little bit of that would still be a part of the transition from socialism into communism. But it was not put out there as the desirable outcome, but merely a foreseeable consequence of the shift of class dynamics.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, even though I agree that, we must look at humanity as good, we have to admit, like, if we just look to our closest relatives, like chimpanzees, we do have, like, a violent nature within ape society, or apes. We're apes on a rock, essentially. But we also have a great capacity for empathy, too. And the key is to try and create an environment that encourages the more empathetic and sympathetic aspects of our nature instead of our more aggressive tendencies. Which brings up another question. Do you think that violence is, like, you probably think that violence is justified in self-defense, direct self-defense, but do you think it's ever justified on a big scale?
In reaction to mass scale violence, maybe. Okay, let me put it this way. Assuming I'm God, which of course we all know I am, I think that...
Oh, hail Twebby.
Thanks. No, but anyway, assuming that I'm God and I know for a fact the moral rectitude of all parties involved, then yes, if there's violence on a mass scale, sometimes I think that has to be matched by violence on a mass scale. The problem comes from the fact that the bigger the violence gets, the larger scale it is, the more ambiguous the motivators behind it. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
The more ambiguous the motivations behind it, and the more unreliable the coverage around it becomes. When you have a case like the Holocaust, for example, I think it was clearly we needed to intervene in that conflict. And in fact, I think Europe should have intervened in that conflict long before it did. I think that Europe should have intervened in Germany as soon as they invaded the Sudetenland, basically. But they didn't. They tried to engage in this policy of appeasement, and it ended up biting them fiercely in the ass. They had to fight a much longer war because of it. So I think that in that case, because the Allies had evidence of some kind of mass execution event or something. They didn't know quite what. Like, here's one of the things about the Holocaust. People didn't know 100% what was going on in full outside of the power structure until like 10 years after the Holocaust. Now, immediately after the war ended, people knew that, well, even as the war was going on, people knew that Jews were being expelled from Germany, that they were being moved around to work camps inside the country, stuff like that. But we didn't know about the full scale of it until books started coming out from survivors, from journalists, from soldiers, from all these people who had exposure to what was going on. But we had a vague idea of some kind of mass violence or some kind of what we would now define as genocidal activity going on for years before we ever bombed Dresden, for years before we ever nuked the Japanese, right? We could have done that, and I think we would have been virtuous to do so because of the threat to human life that was posed by allowing the Nazi fascist government to continue, or the Japanese imperial fascist government, or the Italian fascist government to continue unabated. I think that sometimes you have to answer these things with violence on a mass scale. But I think it's a very complicated topic, and every proposed use of state force in order to, for any reason, every individual use of state force should be examined critically and publicly discussed and everything else before being committed to.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of a complex answer, but it's obviously not simple. It's the issue of, is violence ever justified even when there might be a better option, or even especially if there's no other option or seemingly in sight? It's hard to determine, like, will this violence just breed violence, or in the end, does it have to be this way? It's, and in some ways it does have to be this way. Violence breeds violence, but it's just kind of in our nature to like disagree with each other and come butt heads. But there's I don't know how much of a nerd you are, but I'm a very much an anime nerd, and I really liken to what I was trying to explain to my friend, that in the end of that series, Aang found a better way than just through pure violence to take down Far Lord Ozai, because he did not fundamentally believe in not taking a life. And that was core to his character. And I believe, and what he seems to he said he believes as well, is that that's the main lesson to take away, is that there's always a better way. But for whatever reason, he just doesn't seem to understand that on a global scale, it just, I don't know, it just eludes him. He thinks that an Alexander the Great of America would suffice, because he thinks, well, what Alexander the Great did was he didn't just take over nations, he also set up and built governments that were relatively stable, and stuff like that. But I don't think that justifies what Alexander the Great did at all. I don't think that it even justifies conquering nations at all. Like, I think it kind of goes back to the Western idea of whether or not evil is something to be conquered, or is it something that we choose to live with?
Or is it something that we drill out of ourselves through constant effort and refinement of our systems, right? Because that's another alternative. There are some, that's one of the reasons why it's kind of dangerous to treat evil the way some people do, is because of what you just said, the desire to conquer evil. A lot of evil can be justified if you just think, I'm the good guy. So anything I do is good by virtue of my having done it. And the people that I say are evil by virtue of my having declared them evil. And if we're going to, conquering evil is a virtue, that's a good thing. It's a dangerous way of thinking about things. It's a very dangerous way of thinking about things. So ultimately, we shouldn't seek to conquer evil. We should seek to identify evil and reduce its presence and effect in the world by constantly refining our systems of managing society.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to the good inside therapy that I was talking about, where once you've identified the bad behavior, you can isolate it from the person and say, okay, are we going to give this side of you, are we going to learn how to manage it like a skill, or are we going to, bash you on the head? Like, if you went to somebody who is trying to learn how to swim and they fail a swimming competition, you don't go to them and bash them on the head and say, no more cake for you. You don't get your cell phone for a week. That we don't do that to people. We shouldn't do that for the same for, good and bad behaviors, because it's ultimately a skill that we have to master ourselves to become a more mature and honest and good person.
Right. Yeah, literally, it's the thing you have to work on. By the way, got a super chat from my friend Kenny. Thank you for the $2, Kenny. I appreciate it a ton. What's up, Beshes? Not much. Thank you for the $2. But yeah, it's something you have to work on. Being good is a skill. It's like playing guitar, singing, being able to breathe underwater. Well, not breathe underwater. Being able to hold your breath underwater. Being able to breathe underwater would be a skill indeed. What a hell of a skill that'd be. But these are things you have to work at, and being good is no different. In order to be good, you have to identify what is good. In order to do that, obviously, you've got to have a good education, and you've got to be raised by your parents to see the right things as moral and the right things as immoral, etc., etc. But ultimately, it's a skill you have to work on, and it's really not a skill. It's a million different little skills, right? It's learning how to manage your emotions so that you don't scream at the people you love. It's learning how to be polite, even in the face of someone who's not all that polite to you. It's learning how to assess things critically and take a moment to consider before responding. There are a million little interpersonal skills that go into being an effectively good person, and that is a skill that has to be managed and developed for sure.
Yeah. I grew up with highly religious parents, and I'm still suffering. They love me, but they do not understand, and they probably will never accept the damage that they've caused because of their beliefs. And there was this one time where I was sent to a reform school in Tennessee called Advent Home, and it really fucked me up because there was no cell phones allowed, no video games, no nothing. And it was just you, nature, and working for this rich con artist of a therapist.
Dude, that is crazy.
Yeah, and we ran on a point system. We ran on a point system where your good behavior was measured by points. And if you get to a certain level of points, you can graduate the system and leave. That's your reward, is leaving. I'm just like, okay. They literally said it was similar to a prison. And, I was next to literal psychopathic children that would smash baby birds, and that kind of fucked me up for life. So
yeah, those reform schools are one of the most reprehensible things that are allowed to go on under our noses. I actually used to date a dude who went to one of those reform schools. I think his was in Ohio or something, but he was so profoundly fucked up from his experience at that school. Literally so profoundly fucked up and so angry at that school, wanted to sue them, and I don't blame him a bit. But the thing is, those are honestly, it's one of those things that if I think about the fact that those reform schools exist, when I'm like driving through America's back roads or whatever, and enjoying the scenery, and if I'm enjoying life as an American, that is one of those things that if I think about it, if somebody reminds me of it, it just sours my mood for the next hour. My mood is soured because I think while I'm sitting here enjoying this nice cheeseburger and like doing whatever on my cell phone or whatever, enjoying the scenery, there is some poor kid being abused as fuck and having to witness all kinds of horrible shit. It's just like awful to think about the kind of things that we allow to go on here in America right under our very noses. And there's not, like, this isn't even one of those things politicians even talk about. There is no political will in America to shut down these schools.
Yeah,
but they need to be shut down.
Yeah,
that practice should be banned.
Good news though. The school that I went to, called Advent Home, was shut down along with a neighboring center that was kind of tied to it. Yeah. So, and it had to be shut down because apparently somebody was being sexually abused there. And yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Fortunately, I know who the guy was who did it, and when I went there, I was like 16, 17. So I was beyond his grasp. So either he wasn't attracted to me or I was just too big to deal with. So I'm kind of, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And he worked in the greenhouse. And that was one of the few jobs I liked working in that place, was that their little greenhouse thing. And he was a nice guy too. He was one of the nicer people that worked there. And that just really threw me off. It's always like, I mean, sure, he's working at a place that's evil, but still, he seemed like one of the nicer people that was less interested in being an asshole. But, it's always the people,
right?
Yeah, it was always the people you least expect.
Well, yeah, that's the whole strategy. Yeah, it's like, well, that's part of the reason why it's kind of so inadvisable, in my opinion, to demonize people overly, because the more you demonize people, the more you demonize specific groups of people, the more you make people feel like that can't happen to them, or like that can't be a person that they know, or, and here's the big one, that it makes them associate certain non-existent tropes with that group of people. So if you think about like in the modern day, in the current discourse, if a lot of people think pedophile, they think gay people, because the right has been so adamant about that propaganda and shit. And the truth of it is, you're way more likely to be sexually assaulted by a cisgender white male family member than you are to be assaulted by pretty much anybody else. And like, the other thing is, like, they expect, a lot of people, when they think about like a child predator or something like that, they think somebody who's like real weird and awkward and gross and just unappealing. Like, they have all these like weird assumptions that I think ultimately are just rooted in the dehumanization of these different groups. It doesn't mean you shouldn't call them out, doesn't mean you shouldn't talk shit, doesn't mean you shouldn't criticize or whatever, but I think we should all try and fall short of dehumanizing, because it really does, I think, contribute to the lack of awareness that people have when it comes to some of these issues.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because when I think back to when I was at that place, I was so angry and scared that I literally did not know what to do with myself, and I turned to like very dark thoughts about what I wanted to do to the staff, and looking back at it now, I'm trying to figure out, like, yeah, the people who worked there were human. They weren't the devil. They might have been bad, but they wouldn't deserve the dark urges that I would want to lay siege upon them, because it probably wouldn't do anybody any good. But I I feel like it would. I feel like it should, you know? That part of your mind that just wants to make them suffer so they can understand exactly how they made you feel. But I don't know. Apparently it just doesn't work that way. I don't know.
Vengeance is a very. By the way, I'm gonna have to get off here in a minute because I'm getting so tired and I'm kind of hungry.
I'm sorry. I was yapping your ear off for longer than.
It was a lot longer than 20 minutes, but that's okay. I said in the description, if it's a really interesting conversation, it might go longer than 20 minutes. And I knew it was going to be the last call of the stream too, so I figured if it goes on a little longer, well, whatever. At least I still had 3 people on in one call-in stream, and that's a fucking goal for me. So, fuck, what were we just talking about? I'm so sorry.
We were talking about vengeance and like.
Vengeance is a powerful and alluring drug, and if you allow yourself to be led down that road, it's once again, it opens the door up to so many inhuman things that wouldn't ultimately solve the problem. Even if you did perform some CIA interview techniques, if you know what I mean, on these people, it would not undo the crimes that they did to the people in that school. It would not undo the cruelty that you had to endure. It would not undo the legacy of those of that school, nor would it undo the system of reform schooling that is allowed to abuse people like that so consistently and across so much of America. And that's why I think we have to be very careful about allowing vengeance to be one of our motivators. But to tie it all off, this is why I am so fierce and consistent about my rhetoric when it comes to the economy and economic matters, because I think that a far better motivator for collective action and like mass policy change is economic grievance. The wealth disparity between the top 1% and the bottom 50% of wage earners, the massive amount of wealth held at the top by the top 1%, the massive amount of control, the outsized amount of control that corporations exercise over our systems. These are axes of oppression that anybody pretty much in the working class can get behind on some level. It's just figuring out how to use that rhetoric in every situation to maximal effect. But ultimately, vengeance only works as a motivator for those who have been, for those needing avenged, right? It doesn't work for somebody who doesn't feel that aggrieved. But everybody feels aggrieved by economic malfeasance right now. Lots of people don't feel aggrieved by shitty reform schools or homophobia rampant in America or the sexism that's rampant in America. There are plenty of people who don't feel aggrieved by those things. Most people, though, do feel aggrieved by the economic thing. And it's way better to get people aligned on that basis, not just because you are working for a better goal, but also because it gives them an enemy that isn't your neighbor. It gives them an enemy and gives you an enemy that isn't your neighbor, and that your neighbor can't be an avatar for. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that last part? I'm sorry, I kind of zonked out a little bit.
I was just saying, like, if you get people to focus on the economic devastation that capitalism brings, then you give them an enemy to focus on that isn't their neighbor, and that their neighbor can't be made an avatar of.
Yeah, exactly. That's I just don't know, like, it's just so much easier to like go to your neighbor and be like, fuck you, man. Especially now with the political divide, it seems like it's easier like to point and say it's your fault Trump got into office and you must suffer. You know, just that attitude can get us nowhere. But if we look at it from a point of view that, yeah, they're just stubborn. They're like stubborn huskies, you know? They don't want to take a bath.
Yeah, they're
You know?
products of a system. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're products of a system that has to be worked around, figured out, undone, and dismantled.
Yeah, yeah, and I also think that capitalism causes this idea that that whatever when you work, therefore you are worth something. You are defined by your identity is from what you produce and what you make money out of versus other projects that you can do that doesn't create that much wealth. Like I like martial arts, but the only way to really feasibly get into it when it comes to the capitalist system is to go to shady dojos and be MMA gyms that are owned by people who worship Dana White and Trump. So it's
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is like the mission of capitalism is to capitalize on every fucking thing in society, right? The greatest desire of every capitalist is for you to have to pay an ongoing fee to not be shot in the head, right? Every capitalist's wet dream is to be able to embed every baby at birth with an explosive chip in their head that immediately goes off the second they stop paying their life rent. That is the wet dream of every capitalist. Don't let them tell you any different. They want to kill you. They want to turn you into dust in their factories and on their farms and in their retail establishments. They want to turn you into paste.
That's what they're trying to do with AI. They want to replace all the workers so that they can justify in killing us off, and then they can battle each other with AI all day.
I mean, unironically, I've been saying this for a couple of years now. I mean, I always say that AI would be a wonderful technology if the workers owned it. AI would be a wonderful technology if worker cooperatives were the ones owning and developing and controlling its direction. Unfortunately, Palantir is subject to the Department of Defense's regulations and desires and is currently being used to coalesce a bunch of data about Americans and foreign nationals and everybody fucking else on the planet and use that information for targeting and exploiting and who else fucking knows what. AI would be an amazing technology if it was being used by the working class to make obsolete jobs that the working class hates. It would be amazing if it was doing that. Unfortunately, it is not going to be, it's not currently at least, being used as a technology that is going to help build a post-scarcity world where working class people are able to enjoy the same luxuries as people in the bourgeoisie, and there is no more bourgeoisie. That's not what the technology is being used for presently. I think it could be oriented in that direction, but only after a socialist revolution.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know anything about the gaming space, but gaming is becoming like such a luxury now because of the consumption of RAM, and hopefully the AI bubble bursts at some point and all these corporations will realize, oh gee, this AI stuff isn't as useful as we thought it was. Maybe we shouldn't.
You know what I'm waiting for? You
Yeah.
know what I'm waiting for is when the AI bubble finally crashes, they start dismantling these AI data centers, and they gotta start selling these super high-priced gigs of like RAM sticks and graphics processors and shit like that for like half of their original purchase cost because they're just trying to recoup the money from the facility as quick as they can.
Yeah. That would be amazing. That'd be awesome, actually.
I know.
It would also be awesome if we could somehow localize a lot of these industries to make worker cooperatives that mass produce computer parts at a cheaper price and locally, so that maybe every town or every city you can go to can like have, oh, you can buy computer parts from here. Somebody can 3D print this, or I don't know what other technologies you can use.
Technological decentralization is a really, really promising thing to me, and I believe in it. I think that we can and currently are coming up with a number of scalable technologies that work well at the small scale and at the commercial scale. Like, there are so many examples of this, but it's like solar power, for example. Yeah, I mean, it works if you convert an entire field of soybeans that used to be raised for cows to eat into solar power. You will get way more energy output than you would have from the people that would have eaten that beef, or if you'd use those soybeans for ethanol production. You get more power out of having the solar there, and that's true. In that way, it's very easily scalable. But you can also cover your house's entire roof with solar, cover a few outbuildings with solar, and generate most of your household power needs throughout most of the year. And technology production could be scaled in a similar fashion. I mean, there's lots of like a lot of feedstocks for microprocessors and circuitry technology and stuff like that. A lot of feedstocks do require big industrial factories that don't scale well in the small settings. But a semiconductor factory doesn't have to be big. A semiconductor factory can be, as big as a decently sized house or as big as a Tesla mega factory. It's just, how much land do you have to work with? How much technology do you want to stuff in there? How many production lines do you want to set up?
Yeah, I was talking with another friend about what it would take to localize some of these industries. He said, I wish 3D printing would be one of them, but apparently silicone doesn't fit through a nozzle very well. And
they've still had a lot of problems figuring out how to introduce 3D printing in the
Yeah, my friend is a computer expert, and he says that 3D printing is good at building static parts, unmoving parts, and what you could make is probably parts to make a part of a computer graphics processor, but that's about it. You can't. It's very hard to build like full, graphics cards or RAM. It's kind of impossible at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have, like I said, the industrial feedstocks for the production of these things does require these massive factories, and those massive factories require big production chains and stuff like that. I'm not an anarcho-primitivist, but I do think that we need to seriously re-examine the way we live our lives if we're actually going to address some of this stuff, because like a lot of the reason why we're searching for a solution for like scalable technologies that work at a local scale as well as a big one is to not be as reliant on other countries or even on our federal government or on big corporations or whatever for this stuff. But we also wouldn't be reliant on them for this stuff if we weren't as reliant on the stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's I think it's a nuanced conversation. Yes, I do think that we need to invest more in smaller scale production in localized environments all throughout the country, not just because manufacturing jobs are good for the economy and they help people find work and they fucking, not just because of all the fucking reasons that a Republican will throw at you, but also because it would be nice if we could cheapen the production of these things by making it so widespread and easy and scalable that it exists in a lot of different forms and fashions across the country. But we also, I think, need to reduce our reliance on high-tech stuff. That doesn't mean you can't have a computer. That doesn't mean you can't play video games. It just means, like, maybe we should, like, wouldn't it be better for the planet and all of us if it was normal for you to only have to upgrade your computer every 5 to 10 years?
I mean,
it used to be that way. Throughout the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, you didn't update your computer every year. You updated your computer every 5 to 10 years. A new architecture comes out, a new, a big leap in technology comes, and you go get that big leap. Now, that big leap in technology is supposed to happen every year, and people are supposed to continuously upgrade their stuff every year. I mean, think about how much e-waste that generates.
Yeah. But a lot of that would be solved if we just stop using coal, because we already have like renewable energy and nuclear power to replace it that's more efficient now than it ever was and ever will be. Well, not ever will be, but they'll probably have more developing to do. But still, we have the technology to replace coal, and we're just not doing it because of these coal companies just want to keep on making a quick buck, and they think it's, oh, we don't want to switch to nuclear, it's cheaper to stay with coal, like, you know, even though they're not looking at the bigger picture of the environment that the damage is causing. And did you know that like coal plants produce more radioactive waste than power plants do?
Yeah,
that's crazy. Like,
a nuke plant doesn't produce as much loose radioactive material in the environment as a coal plant of the same size does.
Yeah, and it produces less. It doesn't, like, power plants don't produce any of those other hazardous chemicals in the air that aggravate people's allergies, and God knows what it does to the animals. but
nuke plants responsibly dispose of their waste nuclear material. They have to, by American law. By law, they have to dispose of it in particular ways. So that's not what happens to coal ash. Coal fly ash just goes up the chimney and, you know, throughout the atmosphere. Whereas, nuke waste gets buried deep in the fucking mountains of New Mexico, you know?
Yeah, and it's like so protected in a way that it's like nobody's going to go and break in and say, I'm going to destroy the world and release this pollution everywhere. Nobody's going to do that. So,
well, even if they tried, they couldn't. They've done studies. There's this thing called, you'll hear about it sometimes thrown around in the media. There's this thing called a dirty bomb. And it's made out in the media to be this really horrifying prospect, but it's a paper tiger. It's a non-existent threat. The EPA, I believe, or maybe the FDA, I can't remember. Maybe it was the USDA. I don't remember which org did. They did a test on a dirty bomb to see if anyone would be seriously affected by it. And the test determined that the most affected person would receive a pretty significant dose. But if you look into the methodology of the study they used, they assumed that after the blast, no one moves for 1 year. And obviously, after a blast of any kind of explosion, most everybody's going to get the fuck up out of there, which means that even the most exposed person who did not receive a dose of radiation in their tests that would be high enough for them to, like, die within the next few years, it might make them sick, but it probably wouldn't kill them within the next few years, probably wouldn't shorten their lifespans even that significantly. But if you look at it through real-world conditions, dirty bombs are not a threat. The biggest threat from a dirty bomb is panic. And that is exactly the kind of thing you're talking about if you're talking about like trying to use like a nuclear plant's nuclear supply as a weapon. You'd be talking about just like blowing up. Like, if you could get the reactor to melt down and cause like some big radioactive fire, like some Chernobyl shit, then maybe you could cause a reaction where you get like a commensurate amount of pollution, but it would take some like cascading series of failures like that to arrive at that condition. Otherwise, you'd be just faced with a situation very similar to a dirty bomb, where people are very panicked and people are very worried, but ultimately very little happened because radioactive material just kind of spread into big chunks over a big area isn't really that dangerous.
Yeah, it's just amazing what we have, and capitalism is active. Like, people like free market capitalists like to espouse how innovative capitalism is, and it produces so much innovation. Without it, you wouldn't have a cell phone or something like that. But in reality, it's like, I forgot where I was going with this. Fuck, I'm sorry. I totally lost my train of thought. I remember what I was saying. But now we have technology that could start a new energy revolution.
Right.
Like how we envisioned in a lot of sci-fi. A lot of sci-fi, they didn't predict the information revolution. They thought we were going to have an energy revolution, but unfortunately, big companies and coal companies, they kind of prevented that from happening.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I really do need to get off here soon, but it's interesting to think about because, like, when the energy thing, like, for the longest time in, like, during the industrial era, right, all the way through the industrial era, really, there was an incentive to find more and more efficient methods of generating power. And it was around the time that we started to discover the motive usefulness of electricity that financialization really started to pick up and become a tendency in the American economy. And as financialization took over, coal started to become not just the way we power everything, but an economic commodity with attached economic interests that needed to be protected. And that's pretty much when the concerted effort by the bourgeoisie to find more efficient methods of power generation ended, because they got to a point where it was actually financially more viable to continuously try and stay invested in these two new technologies, oil and coal. Even though at this point we've discovered nuclear and stuff like that, and I genuinely think that a lot of the research, if you look into it, there have been very few new renewables invented in the last 50 years. Almost every single thing we use as a renewable technology today is something that was invented in the early 1900s. Hydropower, for example, is centuries old, but it started being used for electricity generation in the early 1900s. A lot of our dams date from the 40s through the 60s. Wind generation is built on many of the same technologies as hydropower. Solar generation, I think that came out in the 60s or 70s. There have been developments of these technologies, but I think a lot of the reason why we developed them in the first place was just kind of a holdover from a time when the bourgeoisie, when the ownership class really wanted to make their industries as efficient as possible. Now, what the bourgeoisie and the owner class care about is financialization. It's the stock markets, it's public perceptions, it's shit like that. Because now, keeping your industries going is less important than maintaining the public perception that your companies are going.
Yeah, man, it's been nice talking with you and all, but I bet you have to get to bed, and I probably should too. So
it's 4:16 in the morning, so yeah.
Yeah,
I suppose it is better for us to cut this short. I say it's been an hour and a half.
Yeah. But yeah, I just to refresh, do you think the friend I have who kind of has these fascist beliefs, do you think it's important to cut out fascists from your life, or do you think it's important to try and convert them?
I think you should always try your best to convert them. Doesn't mean you always have to put up with their bullshit. Doesn't mean you have to give their bullshit a second thought. The great thing about being an advocate for a better world and a fighter in the war against fascism is that fascists are ultimately stupid. Dumb as hell, really. They are stupid as hell. It does not take a whole lot of concerted, active, and nuanced effort to defeat their points. Just watch documentaries, read a little bit of theory, read a little bit of history, and you'll be able to roundly dismiss anything they have to say, even without thinking about it that hard. I also think it's important that we, when possible, maintain this veneer of nonchalant, non-confrontational kind of attitude, because that disarms people. If people think you're just arguing from the position of common sense, they are a lot more amenable to your arguments than if they think you are an advocate for a very specific political ideology. So yes, I think you should remain friends with them, with the goal being to have them see reason with protracted contact with you. You know, in my opinion, I think that that is I think that is the way to do it that is most expedient to building a better world. But it might not be the most personally pleasing thing. It might not, like, you might not be the best candidate for trying to convert every fascist in your area with contact theory. And, you know, not everybody's cut out for that kind of bullshit, you know? And if you're not, I can't blame you.
Yeah, because I honestly have a lot of holes in my knowledge. I didn't have the greatest education, and a lot of what I've learned was through YouTube videos and the sources that they posted and the studies that they posted. That's where I got a lot of my understanding of communism, or the very concept of anarchism being directly opposed to capitalism, and the idea that capitalism isn't all that it's cracked up to be. But I mean, I do have that, but it's not enough, obviously. I would like to listen to some like audiobooks while I game or something like that, but unfortunately my attention span doesn't always work right. So I don't know, like maybe I should just sit there and listen, but then I get restless. So I don't know. Maybe I just need to work on some concentration techniques or something.
There's some things you can do to work with that, and so like you can try listening to audiobooks while you're doing things that require your hands, that don't necessarily require your thoughts. Like, one of the problems with listening to things while you play video games, which I do the same thing, but I've got a very eclectic mind, even while I'm doing this. Like, I'm having this conversation with you, but I'm actively thinking about what I'm going to make myself to eat after I get done with the stream, too. Like, my brain can have multiple tracks going at once. Not everybody's like that. For me, if I really want to focus on something that I'm listening to, more than I want to focus on what I'm doing, a lot of times I will listen to it while I'm washing the dishes or gardening or on a walk or something like that, because then it really does give you an opportunity. Your body gets to express energy. Trust me, I've got that ADHD desire to stay moving as well, but it also gives your brain an opportunity to focus on the information. There is, if you're interested in listening to audiobooks, there's a really good book on YouTube for free in audiobook form called A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. You should look into it, find the audiobook on YouTube, and listen to it, because it will fill a lot of the holes in your knowledge of American history, at the very least.
Yeah, I also need to get better at understanding economics in general, because economics kind of, like, I try to understand it, but man, does it sound like it's another...
I'm like a monkey. Dude, I'm like a monkey fucking a coconut when I try to understand economics. Here, I'll tell you the trick to the economy, all right? It's all fake, made up bullshit by pedophiles that all worship Israel.
Yeah, my friend would like to say, oh, it's all math. It's all math. That's why the free market is all based on logic. It's not an ideology.
Yeah,
right?
It's demon math. It's insane. It's schizophrenics math, dude. It's the math of kings and warlords. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, good talking.
The nuclear bomb was math too, and look how that worked out, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been a good time. You really were a good guest, so maybe consider coming back on another time. We do have another call-in show tomorrow, so maybe you can argue with me again. But tomorrow I'm enforcing a 20-minute limit on your ass because we both ramble.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, hopefully I got you some viewers and entertained your audience for an hour or so. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we've maintained a pretty good conversation in the chat, and I feel like it's been a good conversation between us, so that's good. Victory in my book.
Yeah, that's all good. And fortunately, that reaffirms that I'm not stupid, but that I'm smart enough to keep up with these conversations. Because, man, like with that friend of mine, he just really wants to ramble my ear off sometimes, and I have a hard time figuring out when's the right time to interject, when's the right time to like be confident in something that I know, or do I not know enough about it to talk about it, you know? So
yeah. The more you learn, the more you talk, the more confident you'll be in all that. I've got faith in you. You've got
Thank
all
you.
the signs of someone who can engage in a political conversation competently.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for the encouragement.
Of course.
I needed that.
Anytime.
Yeah. But so hopefully I'll probably see you tomorrow or something like that. I don't know.
Alrighty. I hope I see you tomorrow.
Yeah. You too. Bye.
Peace. Alrighty. And now it's just us. Well, that is going to be our last call in for tonight because I am so tired and it is so late. So I'm going to go ahead and hop out of this Discord call. And I'm going to start closing up my tabs. Yeah, so what did you guys think about that? Was that a fun 3.5 hours or whatever it was? Explaining how going to war with Iran, raising gas prices is math. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I mean, it is math, I guess, but it's not really math. It's vibes. That's why I say the stock market is irrational. And when people ask me to understand the economy, I just tell them I don't understand the economy. As near as I can tell, it's fake magic people math made up by billionaire pedophiles that love Israel. There you go. That's all you need to know about the economy. Libtards, that SRE, too stupid to invest and claim it's some ideology. That comment is so badly written, I don't even know if I should dignify it with a response. Masters, yes, indeed. Masters of the Gish Gallop. If you enjoy hanging out with them and doing other things besides talk politics and stay friends, just ignore the political shit for now and just be completely disinterested. That is another way to do it too. Honestly, like this tactic does work in like some way because if you, and honestly, it can work as a form of political advocacy. If you make someone genuinely believe that you are disinterested in their ideas completely, that is almost a worse condemnation of their ideas than engaging with them and condemning them openly. Because when you engage with them and condemn them openly, it almost ennobles them in a certain way. It emboldens them to use those arguments on other people in the future and see how they'll respond. But if you just act completely disinterested, well, eventually they're going to get sick of bringing up their stupid political beliefs to everybody, only to hear about, sorry, I really don't want to talk about this with you. So it works. Social pressure, people. You look sleepy, Phoebe? Fuck you. I'm perfectly fine. I'm kidding, Matt. I love you. It was good. We really need some people who hard disagree with leftists. I know. We really do. I gotta find, like, how did I manage to get nothing but people who fucking agree with me all over again? Don't it suck that everyone just agrees with you? Yes, it does. It does. I mean, at least this time we got some really interesting conversations about it, or out of it, and we did last time. We did last time when we had Xena on the show. That was really fun, I thought. You know, Xena and Matt, you know, me and you together and all that. I thought that that was really fun and enjoyable. I thought that, that was awesome. So I'm not begrudging it or anything. And, you know, this conversation here, like the conversations we had tonight were awesome too. It's just like, hard to really get into the meat of it and get like a good back and forth kind of like. I feel like I haven't had. It's funny. The only like hardcore disagreements I've ever had on this channel have been with people that I kind of just started beef with randomly. So it's kind of funny that that hasn't happened on a debate, on a call-in show yet. Can you invite any Republicans from smaller channels that do what you do to have a conversation? That's actually not a bad idea. I thought I probably could. I'm sure there are plenty of right-leaning or right-wing people outright that would be willing to have me on their channel. You know? Right away dunks on crazy leftists. I can see it now. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get off here, guys. Thank you guys for hanging out. You guys helped to fund this stream, and you guys are the reason that this stream happened. So I appreciate you guys immensely, so deeply. I can't even fully explain how. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy the content, please consider sending a super thanks, donating on Cash App, which you can find down below, or donating via the super thanks button. Did I already say that? I don't know, probably. Engage with the channel, hit the like button, hit the comment thing, do the stuff, and I will see you guys around.